We have one remaining with the individual, and he's not going to let her leave the aircraft at this time.
He made me feel very sure that we had a very real and horrifying threat.
We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went.
Well, hello, everybody. I am here with my friend Eric Ulis, or...
No audio.
Uh-oh. Eric can't hear me now.
Audio there somehow.
Oh, my boy. Oh, boy. What has happened? Can you hear me now? We just had this fixed.
Still can't hear the audio, Ryan.
Oh, for crap's sake. Okay, so...
We were working on this before, and it worked out fine, but as soon as we did the...
intro.
I noticed on the intro, it said something about the...
okay.
About the thing not being...
Okay. Just do what you did again. Just
want to try it again?
Exit.
Want me to exit out and go back in again? Okay, I'm going to do that here.
Okay.
So
I'll
just try to do this here somehow.
Yeah. Eric can't hear me, people. That's the problem.
And I'll do it like this.
Yeah, we fixed this. He and I fixed this earlier today, but I know that you guys have us both, but Eric couldn't hear me for some reason. Not sure why, but let me exit him out of there. I'll have to come back in a second. Here he's again.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
I got your audio too. Yeah.
Okay, we're good now.
We're all glitchy there, so let me see. Let me get this set back up. Does everything look good as far as the landscape mode and everything?
Yes.
We're good to go.
Oh, okay, but now I'm hearing the feedback.
Okay.
Oh my God. So I'm hearing myself on your audio.
Okay, so let me see here.
Actually, it fixed it. It fixed it.
That's really weird.
It fixed it. Okay, we're good. Everything's fine. Okay.
Happened last time, so that's crazy.
It is. Okay, we're good. That is crazy. Okay, so I am here with my friend Eric Ulis, who I lovingly call Auriculus because of something that our mutual friend Dan Greider said.
Even this guy, Auriculus, whoever this is, Auriculus.
Yeah.
Auriculus.
Yeah, I noticed that when you put up the image that you just put up for a moment, I lose the audio. So just FYI. So if you were saying something while that image was up or whatever, but that I was particularly fond of that. I thought that was very clever on Greider's part, and I kind of wear it as a badge of honor, man. I'm like, that's kind of cool, Auriculus. And among some friends of mine. Occasionally I get called Auriculus, and I'll even call myself Auriculus from time to time. So maybe I should send Greider a six-pack or something of that nature. Yes.
Well, it's funny, in that same clip, like right before that, he says, I'm getting bombarded by the lowest of the low, all the way down to Mississippi criminal defense attorneys. And then there's this guy, Auriculus, whoever that is, Auriculus. So I'm the lowest of the low and you're Auriculus. So
yeah. That's standard Greider right there, a flamethrower. So yeah.
Yeah, well, he does what he does, and it's a headache for all of us because he has such a large reach, and he's such a good carnival barker. People believe him.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. We've had a lot of conversations about this in the past about whether he's good or bad for the case as far as driving interest, and for a long time I've basically subscribed to this whole idea that any publicity is good publicity, that type of thing. At a point, though, I sort of questioned it this last go around with this parachute stuff and everything else, like if it was creating more of a problem than it frankly was benefiting us. And again, the whole reason I think the media is important, or at least getting the word out is important, is because we still don't know who the guy is. And there's still a possibility that, it's unlikely that he's still alive, though he could be, or maybe. But, perhaps a relative is alive and they just don't realize the connection or something of that nature, or somebody else comes along. And in fact, we'll talk about somebody else that recently came along into my orbit that saw something in the media. So that's why that's important, is because if somebody's reading, if D.B. Cooper's real granddaughter, for example, is reading, D.B. Cooper is Richard Floyd McCoy and they found his parachute. Oh, okay, well, I always had suspicions about Grandpa Joe, but now obviously he's not it. That's where it creates a problem because, at this point, that's kind of what we're left working with. I mean, we're kind of like, we're trying to work with the tie particles, and we're trying to do some other stuff with flight paths and things of that nature, and trying to like reach out to people that may have known the real guy or family members that had suspected somebody. And anything that kind of squashes that or quelches that, I think is problematic ultimately in the long run. And that's where I'm sort of, where Grider can be a little problematic. So
yeah, that's a good way to put that, Eric, because I mean, the things that you do with flight path and things, are outside what we would say the norm, I guess. Right. But whatever you do is not going to discourage people, suspect, I mean, whereas Grider, like you said, saying I solved it and here's it's done, going on CNN saying we did it. And you're right. It does hurt because, I mean, I know that you get emails from people. I get emails from people who, I mean, I know, I can think of Lee Seller, our Canadian missing person suspect. That guy was watching, his nephew who brought him forward was just watching the Netflix show or something and was like, Canadian could be my uncle who went missing, the pilot, And we get that guy, or the person I did at CooperCon last year. That was just a random person, who messaged me. And yeah, so you're right. I mean, with Cooper long dead, it's going to have to come from a family member,
Well, the other thing, and I know you know that we'll be talking about this a little bit later this evening, is a handful of months back, there was a guy who reached out to me who was an air traffic controller at McChord Air Force Base that night. And as I'll speak to here in a little bit, he can sort of attest to some things, and he brings some really intriguing information that has never been heard before. That guy's like a first-hand witness who actually, at a radar screen at McChord Air Force Base, he was an air traffic control trainee. He was not in the U.S. Air Force at the time, but nonetheless, he observed this thing and was listening in on the communication, everything. The only reason this guy came forward 54 years later or whatever is because he happened to see something media related, obviously that I was involved in, and he reached out to me. And, so that's just, that's the kind of stuff that is invaluable. And you know how it is, Ryan, for every 1,000, for every 999 kind of things that are kind of a waste of time, so to speak, you get one gem. You get one gem.
Absolutely.
Like, wow, this is critical. Yep. So there you go.
And that's what we're in this for is that, so I've got you on because you are looking at a new drop zone, and I would love for you to tell everybody why you're interested in a different drop zone.
Well, I got to say, I'm not really sure what the hell I think at this point about a handful of things. And here's the reason why. I like to dig into the evidence, the evidence as I see it. Things like the money finding to Tina Barr, like that's pretty hard to dispute. Firsthand witnesses, what they actually saw, what they recall, those kind of things. Obviously stuff in the FBI files is really critical because a lot of that stuff came from the night of the skyjacking itself. So when you're reading the 302s, that's really important information. And, I like to take that evidence and the tie particles and all the stuff Tom Kay's done recently and try to, unravel the riddle, because it is this one gigantic riddle. All of this makes sense somehow. So with respect to the flight path, I mean, listen, it's no mystery that for a long time I have been really, really suspicious of what I've always called the FBI flight path. For clarification, it was the United States Air Force who plotted the flight path, the one that's on the famous yellow map. But at least for this evening, I'll refer to it as the FBI flight map right there. I've always called it that, and so I'll keep calling it that tonight. But the thing is that we've got the map that you just showed, and it's got it's got times associated with it. I'm unclear as to who actually put those little times next to the little next to the little radar plots. I assume it's somebody in the FBI who did that.
No, that would have been an Air Force person. An FBI person would have had no idea how to read the coordinates.
So you think it was an Air Force person who plotted the times? Okay.
Easy. I mean, I think Chris Cunningham. I think it was Spangler. I mean, I think he knows who did it. I think it was Major Spangler did it.
Okay, that's okay.
Captain Spangler.
Interesting. Okay, that would be interesting. Yeah. So either way, so we've got that with the times. We got the times next to it there. We also have, we have the transcripts, the ATC transcripts that, obviously go through precisely, the communication that was between the pilots and ATC. Very famously, when the jet was first took off from Seattle, was flying south, basically southwest in Sector 2 airspace, at a point at basically 7:59 and I think 14 seconds to be absolutely precise. The air traffic controller in Sector 2 contacted the pilots and told them to switch over to the air traffic controller handling Sector 5, actually Sector 4 and Sector 5 airspace. And so we see that in the transcripts. It happens at 7:59 and I believe 14 seconds, thereabouts. And then there's nothing for 14 minutes. Mm-hmm. And 14 minutes later at 8:13 and X number of seconds, all of a sudden in the transcripts, we see that 305 reaches out and finally gets a hold of Cliff Ammerman, who is the air traffic controller that night, handling both Sector 4 and 5 airspace. So during that 14-minute blackout period that I call it, there's nothing in the transcripts. There's no communication between ATC and the pilots. Now,
because they were on clear, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, to be clear, there is communication and transcripts related to the pilots and Northwest Orient's flight operations based in Minneapolis. Totally separate thing, but so we have that there. So
I'll jump in real quick. I'll say
sure.
that they may have been, well, they were. The reason for that silence, right, is because they were on the wrong frequency. They were on the high altitude frequency. They were on the one that goes above 10,000 feet. And it wasn't until 8:13 or whenever they realized, oh shit, we're on the high altitude, go back to, and they jumped back to Cliff, So
that's correct.
Yeah. So, I mean, they may have been speaking to some guy who was like, who the hell are you?
That's correct. I've actually talked to Cliff Ammerman about this, and he says he thinks that's exactly what happened. He thinks that they actually reached the person at the higher altitude airspace controller, and they were they were trying to figure out, well, where you are in terms of where you are on the screen, and basically it took a little bit of time for them to figure out what the problem is, because normally a jet takes off from SeaTac and goes up to 35,000 feet. This was different. It didn't go above 10,000 feet, which happens to be like the threshold between, lower level and higher levels airspace. So it just sort of created this little funk. But the point is that it was during that 14-minute blackout period that DB Cooper jumped. Right. He jumped during that 14 minutes. And moreover, Bill Radicek, who's the co-pilot of the flight, mentioned that we've always understood it that at the time that DB Cooper jumped, or it's believed that DB Cooper jumped. Yeah. I want to be very clear about that. That's what we believe, but we can't be 1,000 billion% sure. We believe that he jumped. Bill Radicek, mentioned something about, Mark, your shrimp boats, our friend may have just taken leave of us or what have you. Now, Bill Radicek has said that publicly, that he mentioned that. He mentioned to that me, and privately, I communicated with Bill a few times, and Bill passed away, I think, within the last year, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's been no way to corroborate that on the right. transcripts. And, I'd take Bill at his word. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm sure he said that. Well, fast forward to, 2026 or whatever, and all of a sudden I get a call from a guy, or rather an email from a guy who is the air traffic controller that I mentioned previously from McCord Air Force Base. And he mentioned that, hey, we were watching the flight as it was transitioning south through, a portion of our airspace We weren't in control of the airplane. We didn't communicate with the pilots. We were just watching and listening. And he said, he told me, he said, yeah, where they've been looking for DB Cooper's wrong, because I remember that night that the pilot said, DB Cooper jumped from our airplane. And he said that in a situation like that, they don't rely upon memory to remember where they heard that radio event. If there's a crash or something big happens, they have what they call a grease pencil, and they'll literally circle on the screen where the plane is. And he said that circle represents an area of about maybe 5 miles, that kind of thing. And I said, well, that's, very interesting. Because I said, well, where was this? Where did this happen? And he said it was, southeast of Chehalis. And I'm like, yeah, that's a major problem, because Chehalis may as well be, Philadelphia. I mean, there's just no way that the guy jumped near Chehalis. Obviously it didn't happen. So I was trying to understand, well, what happened? Like, how did he hear this? And he's absolutely adamant and believable and everything. And I realized that I started to figure out that I believe what happened here is that you and I know, Ryan, and others that are into this case know that there was an event that happened. There was some turbulence and there was a little bit of buffering and an event that happened basically around 8 o'clock or just after 8 o'clock. In other words, literally 1 or 2 minutes after the handoff took place to Ammerman, and we were in the black zone, the dark zone. And that's when the pilots reached back. I think it was the pilots Tina reached back to Cooper on the interphone, tried to hail him a couple of times, and there was no response. They thought DB Cooper had jumped. Then about a minute or so later, shortly thereafter, Cooper actually got on the interphone and said, yeah, I'm here. I don't need anything. Everything's okay. So they realized, oh, the guy actually is still on the plane. That was the last communication with DB Cooper. And in the transcripts, they have that happening at 8:05 p.m. Right. So again, 5-6 minutes after, into the blackout period. So this was the first guy to come along. So I kind of surmised, I'm like, maybe what we got going on here is that when Bill actually said that, he didn't say our friend just jumped at the time that they thought he jumped around 8:12 p.m. or whatever, which happened later on. He must have said that actually the first time when they thought he jumped. Which was obviously very interesting. And why that's important is because it corroborates Bill's statement, that haven't been able to corroborate up to that point. But also, very importantly, if this air traffic controller, and his first name is Bruce, I've never released his full name publicly, but his first name is Bruce. If Bruce can be believed and his memory is accurate, and there's no reason to think it isn't, and I've had many discussions with him, including earlier today, that event happened at where the plane was basically kind of near Onalaska, Washington, a little southeast of Chehalis, 9 miles or so. So actually reasonably consistent with the flight path at that point. So that is important in terms of the timing, because we know that had to happen after 7:59. And of course, if you look at 7:59 on the yellow map, 7:59 is denoted as happening a few minutes later, 4 or 5 minutes later, around Toledo. So that suggests that the timing is off. Now, why that's important, and I'm not going to say too much more here. I'll let you speak. This is your show, Ryan. Is what's interesting is Cliff Ammerman, who is the ATC pilot who is handling Sector 4 and Sector 5 airspace, the guy who the handoff was made to, who eventually got the flight 14 minutes later. Cliff mentioned to me, and I've known this for a long time, and I've discussed this. Cliff mentioned to me that the handoff to him from the previous guy took place north of Toledo. He said it took place, roughly, 10 miles or so, 9-10 miles north of Toledo, north of that turn, which also contradicts the timing on the map. So, it's one of those things where I'm like, well, okay, who's right, who's wrong here? I mean, we've got two air traffic controllers who are basically saying the same thing in terms of the timing and the plotting that appears to suggest that the timing is off, if not the flight path itself. So I don't know. So that's where it's very intriguing, and it's really a riddle, because it's, as I was mentioning to you earlier today, Ryan, we were talking obviously on the phone privately. What I've come to believe is that something is wrong. There are mistakes here somewhere along the way. There's no way that there's no way that Bill could be right, Cliff Ammerman could be right, the yellow path could be right, the drop zone could be right, where the placard was, that piece of fiberglass was found, which may not be related to 305, and Cinnabar. I mean, there's no way all these things add up. Something's got to give. And it's not even as simple as just changing one thing. You've got to change a couple of things. There's got to be a couple of things wrong. So that's kind of where we are. So that's why I really hesitate to say, like, what it comes down to is, in my mind, we got two possible drop zones, which are about 50 miles apart, which sounds insane, but this is kind of where I'm living at the moment. Either it's around Pigeon Springs, Washington, in other words, a little north of the area, meaning 12 or so miles north of where the FBI basically believed he jumped, or at least the northern boundary of where he jumped, or it's actually very near Tina Bar, meaning the flight path and everything is also askew. It's incorrect, that they were tracking the fighter jets and not 305 and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of where I am. I mean, I am really tortured trying to figure out where the hell this could be, because I am 1000% convinced that something on that flight path map, the yellow map, the FBI map, the U.S. Air Force map, is wrong. The timing, the flight path, maybe both things, something is wrong. It just does not make sense. And I'll say finally that the money find at Tina Bar is also makes me think that something's wrong, primarily because the three packets that were found buried in the sand. They weren't in a bag, they weren't in a box or anything of that nature. They appear to have been hastily buried. Now, it's common sense just tells you that if you're going to bury cash in the dirt, I think pretty much all of us would put the money in a bag or a box or something, wrap it up in something, and then bury it in the dirt and cover it up. We wouldn't just dig a hole and literally throw loose money in there. Yet that is precisely how those three packets were found. So it appears that the money was buried hastily. Therefore, it makes sense to me that, okay, he must have landed somewhere near where the money was found. And I understand this is not consistent with the FBI drop zone, but it appears that he must have landed somewhere around there and then hastily buried it, because, as I've said many times before, he can't walk into Vancouver back to civilization carrying the money at that point. But, I mean, maybe there's some other explanation. So that's enough of me talking. I'll let you go for it, Ryan. So
I guess my thing is that, in interviewing so many people who were involved in this thing and reading their interviews and listening to their interviews from years later, I mean, we've got 2.5 hours of Bill Radachek talking and doing an interview, and he was there, he was the co-pilot, and the number of things that he gets wrong are extraordinary. And it's like, he's just wrong. And so I guess my pushback would be like, we've got multiple data points for where the plane was at any given time, what time it was. We've got, for one thing, we have that Air Force guy's own Air Force radar tracking them, right? It's their radar. Okay. Yep. It's their timestamps. It's their radar. And then we have, there are things called DMEs, which people might not know, they're like waypoints essentially along a flight path, where it's like, hey, we're passing this DME at this point, and they'll call in to air traffic control or whoever and say, hey, we're passing yada yada yada. And so every time they hit a DME, they would say, hey, we're passing DME 525, and it's at 811 or whatever. And there were Northwest guys who were handwriting notes the whole time. And their notes line up perfectly with their notes pretty much line up perfectly time-wise with the Air Force's map. Okay, essentially it's the exact same. At 8:14, they're at the Orchard, or the Battleground Vortex or whatever, at 8:15 or whatever it was. All these things kind of line up. So the problem is, I feel like when you're relying on what a person says decades later to counteract what evidence we have from the actual time. I mean, my thing was, I had a lot of time. I'm trying to write it. My book is an academic book. It's got 500 citations in it. I'm trying to make a history book, not a theory book. And so when you've got contradicting witnesses, Tina Mucklow says things that aren't what she said in 1971. And I always, the best practice is to go with the earliest statement, because that's just memory, right? So I guess my question for you is, why does this guy matter? The new guy,
Bruce.
Yeah. Why does he matter for where Cooper jumps?
Okay.
Because Cooper's on the plane at 8:05. So, there's no way Cooper's jumping at Chehalis, period.
Yeah. And we agree on that. And Bruce even agrees with that, because I've had conversations that he heard just a snippet of the conversation, and Bill said that apparently at that time, but he was wrong. He didn't jump. So going back to the DME thing, there's only a few DME marks, or a couple that are really pertinent. And indeed, as we've talked about and people know, there actually is a little bit of discrepancy to the tune of, I think, about 8 minutes. Now, we kind of know which one is probably wrong, but the point is that even in that case, there is some discrepancy, and it's not as simple as saying we're at the DME at Battleground. What it actually says is they're 23 miles south. So again, when you're dealing with a jet that's traveling 3 miles a minute, and at 10 after in 1 second versus 10 hour and 59 seconds represents 3 miles, which is significant. So, and the other thing is that the way it's reported is when they're talking about the location of the jet, there's a series of there's a whole paragraph of they lost communication, then they reestablished it, then they're at this is the fuel flow, this is where they are, DME. So basically the little paragraph with the timestamp is representing obviously a few minutes of activity, which further complicates it. Now, I will say that I've gone through this painstakingly, and there's nothing inconsistent with the DME marks that I've seen that are inconsistent with the timestamps on the yellow map being askew as described. But to answer your question there are two things that, in terms of memory, you're absolutely correct. You go back 50 years and people remember things incorrectly, they forget things or what have you. But it's very important to understand, first of all, these are professional air traffic controllers. This is their business. And in the case of Bruce, they're trained that if something happens, there's an event that happens, the first thing you do is with the grease pencil circle where it is. So it was circled in real time. And obviously he remembers where it was circled in real time. And that's the memory he's carried forward for the last 50 years.
But it's an incorrect memory, though. I mean, we know Cooper didn't jump there, so what's the point?
Sure, it is possible. Again, it's very important to understand. I'm just correlating Bill Radachek saying our friend may have jumped, and this guy at McChord hearing it and circling it. Bill Radachek may have said it only one time, closer to 8 o'clock, or maybe he also said it a second time, once at 8 o'clock, maybe once at 8:12. We don't know. All I'm saying is, I'm not saying, I do not believe Cooper jumped anywhere near Chehalis. I think that we've established that. And the reason why is because Cooper got on the interphone a few minutes later and actually talked to them. So we know for sure that he didn't jump there. We know that for sure. So that's what he's trained to do, is circle that. And that's exactly what he's remembered ever since. It's also very important to consider that they have some very real limitations. This guy was at McChord.
Mhm.
You're right. The radar that they were using to watch was at McCord versus ATC in Auburn, Washington, near Seattle, which is pulling from the Salem, Oregon area. So the McCord Air Force radar is much more accurate simply because it's closer. But the range on the scope is 60-mile radius. So once you got basically to the Toledo, Washington area where that turn took place, that's the extent of how far their radar could see because the curvature of the earth, and they couldn't even see Cooper the jet anymore. So by definition, all the communication that we're talking about jumping had to be north of Toledo because he wasn't even on scope anymore and they were no longer watching or listening in. So why that's important is because if I'm correct about this happening at the first event at 8:05, it establishes an issue with the timing, which is important. And the other thing is that he insists that the plane was actually not at that point when it was passing near Chehalis, that it was actually flying at a heading of about 140 or 150. In other words, it was heading southeast, which is not what the FBI flight path shows. That shows them flying basically southwest. So, and I've talked with him at length, and he's like, that's the direction it was flying. It was on basically Victor 23. So what he is saying is that the jet flew from Seattle and it hooked up with Victor 23, but it did a little further north, closer to Centralia, not at Toledo as is depicted on there. If that is true, if that is to be believed, that means the FBI flight path, at least in the top portion, is wrong.
Okay.
And that's it. That's all I'm running with. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just, that's it. And of course, you also have what Ammerman said too.
I know. I guess I'm flummoxed because, I mean, this guy's in the Air Force. Okay, he's an air traffic controller.
He's not in the Air Force. He's a civilian. He's an air traffic controller trainee alongside a journeyman air traffic controller, because apparently they had that at McCord as well at the same time as they had military guys there.
Yeah. Okay. And the thing is, though, it's like the flight path map. I mean, this was constructed, from real time data. I mean, that plane was being hit every 10 seconds by Sage radar. Okay. And it was recording the location in real time. So it's like, we have hard data here that lines up with what everybody else is writing, more or less. So like what a guy says 50 years later, I don't see the relevance of it, Eric. I really don't. I mean, well,
here's the thing. I can prove that the timing on the map is wrong. And the reason why I can prove it is wrong is because we're missing, very famously, the dot at 10:04.
Yes,
it ain't there. It ain't there.
I added
so
that. Yeah.
Like that proves
well
that, the yellow map, somebody made a mistake.
It's off by a minute.
Yes, that if it is off by a minute, then obviously it's not
it's the fruit of the poisonous tree.
Moreover, you and I also both know that a little south of Tina Bar, there are these ghost plots, these 3 red ghost plots that no one has understood exactly the significance of those 3 ghost plots. I don't know.
Chris Cunningham did. I mean, it was a plotting error.
That's correct. He said that there was a plotting area, and then they shifted it to the right. So the point is you can kind of see that. I just want to make sure that we understand that it's not infallible.
It's not perfect.
That's correct. And the other thing is, what is Sage radar? What Sage radar is, and I think you know this, Ryan, is basically it's the Air Force pulling location data from a number of radar facilities up and down the West Coast in this case here. And at times it conflicts because this is 1971, this isn't 2026, and it synthesizes that data. It synthesizes the data. So and it's well known, it's well established that Sage radar is not flawless. It's not, you can't.
Nothing is.
It's
yeah.
not. It's not. In fact, there's actually plenty of examples if you do a little bit of research. And I'm not saying you. I'm just saying if a person does research, you can see there are plenty examples of mistakes, errors. I mean, it wasn't overly effective. So the point is that, and the other thing, the final thing I'll say with respect to that is that there's a lot I cannot explain. All I know is that something doesn't make sense. And I've also suspected that what we actually have here is that they may have been plotting the lead F-106, which had a SAGE radar link to McCord,
okay.
which is where it came from.
That's impossible. I mean, look, remember that has been explained as literally being impossible. Because remember, we had a guy join the Facebook group several years ago who was I think he was the former, I want to say, executive director or something of
NORAD
he was lieutenant, the NORAD guy. And
Yeah.
he had learned on SAGE, and he was saying that it literally, the SAGE radar is looking for bogeys. Okay. They will not ping their own aircraft. They can't. They literally cannot do that as a safeguard. So like, there's zero chance, absolutely none. Please, Eric, take that out of your vocabulary that it was the darts they were hitting on, because it's literally an impossibility. That was a safeguard so they don't shoot down their own plane.
Because well, nobody's shooting down anything. What's happening is
but I'm saying they can't track it though. I mean, they're not tracking the Delta darts on the real-time recording because it doesn't have the tracking. It can't. They literally cannot.
Well, I want to be very clear about this, Ryan. It actually does see the F-106s or whatever. But it has to see them because it has to know their location relative to the bogey, the Soviet bomber, and direct it to it. So it sees everything. But
they're not recording. All. But they're not. But the point was, he said that the auto record was not on. It was on whatever bogey it was. So it was on. So
sure, he's saying that what's being recorded to the hard drive or whatever is not the military jet. That he's saying that it's a different ping. I can't explain it. Yeah, you obviously there's a way to distinguish the aircraft, but which may be accurate and it may not be accurate. I don't know. All I know is that I've thrown that out there as a possibility. I don't know.
Well,
I do know is that where the money was found, it doesn't make any sense. We haven't found anything where he was supposed to be found anything at all. And that's like very problematic 55 years out, like I've been saying. Can you explain
one thing I do want to ask you? You're very big on the Tina Bar thing, obviously. And
yes.
My question is, why are you're very dead set on Cooper being the source of that money that night, right?
Yes.
Why?
Couple reasons. First of all, the money appears to have been hastily buried. As I said before, hastily. It was buried directly in the dirt. Wasn't put in a bag or anything. Now, again, is there a guy out there who would just throw it in the dirt? Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm just kind of saying most people wouldn't do it that way. The other thing is Tina Bar, as I've said many times before, is for all intents and purposes on an island. There's only one way to get there, and it's about from Vancouver. It's an 11-mile drive north up to Tina Bar. You can't walk there without walking through downtown Vancouver, and there's no way DB Cooper landed in the drop zone and like walk 35 miles through downtown Vancouver and then back up north to Tina Bar to bury the money and turn around and come back down. I mean, is it possible? Sure, it's possible.
And that tells me it wasn't buried by him that night.
Yeah. So
I mean, come on.
I'm just saying that's what that suggests. So the fact that there's only a couple of possibilities. The guy either got there because he drove there, he got there because he took a boat there, or he got there because he jumped out of the plane and landed near there on the island, as I put it, which is actually a peninsula, but again. And given that I have a really hard time understanding how somebody lands somewhere else, throws the cash in the trunk of their car, and then drives for 30 minutes to Tina Bar and just hastily buries it in the dirt without like wrapping it in something, doesn't make sense. Is it possible? Yes. Yes, it is possible.
Well, that's why we don't believe it was
playing
Cooper.
the odds here. I'm saying, in my mind, it is overwhelmingly likely that DB Cooper. I guess like
why is it overwhelmingly likely? It's found 9 years later. There's literally 9 years where some fuckery could have happened that we don't know about.
No, you're right. There is the possibility that, I mean, maybe a month later, maybe he wanted to like have a side stash or something and buried it directly. I mean, there are an infinite number of possibilities. That's possible. It doesn't make any sense to me, but it's possible. And so, I'm just kind of sort of trying to apply the Occam's razor thing. Well, I mean, the simplest thing is he kind of just landed near there and he needed to offload the cash, kind of like McCoy offloaded the cash under the freeway in a viaduct, and then he came back. That's kind of what I'm thinking. And the fact that it was just buried directly in the dirt, and it does not appear that a bag dissolved around it or anything else like that. That's why I say that. Now, again, I don't have a photograph or anything of anybody doing anything, so I don't really 1000% know. But that's kind of where I live as far as that goes. So you can see why I'm torn between, like, if he landed near Pigeon Springs, I'm like, okay, then why in hell would he have brought the money, or anybody for that matter, brought the money to Tina Bar and buried it? At least the 3 packets. I mean, why would they do that? I mean, I don't know. That makes no sense.
I think the Occam's razor, for Tina Bar would be that it washed up there. I mean, somehow. But again, we have to explain how the diatoms are wrong, and I mean,
there's all these other there. That's real hard to get around. That's and also so north of Tina Bar, unless he or rather south, but upstream. Let's be clear, upstream from Tina Bar. I don't want to get in the direction of the river. The Columbia River famously flows north at that point, flows from south to north. So that gets confusing. But I mean, fundamentally, Ryan, I think the difference between you and me on this is that, you swear by the FBI or the U.S. Air Force, the yellow map and the timing and everything. I don't know. Do you? I
just have no reason to. I have no reason to doubt it being far off.
Sure, but I have reason to doubt it, and the reason comes in of where the money with Tina Bar was found, and the condition it was found in. The fact that we have both air traffic controllers essentially corroborating the timing is askew, and also the fact that absolutely nothing at all has ever been found where he apparently jumped. And it's been searched and construction's gone on.
Except by you. It's interesting. You've searched everywhere except where the FBI said he jumped. So why don't you do that? Maybe you will find something.
Because I'm a big FBI guy, and I think they did a terrific job, and it's just not there.
I'm just saying you searched everywhere except where they said.
No, it's.
But Eric,
maybe I should. I don't know. Maybe I should.
I think you should
scratch the itch and like, it is, And if I find it, that'd be a hell of a story. I'm like, I guess Ryan was right all along. There it is.
My question is so, but why Pigeon Springs? What makes you think Pigeon Springs?
It's just the timing. It's just the timing. I believe that the timing. There's a couple possibilities, but let's say let's say the FBI flight path is perfectly correct. Just the timing is askew, as established by what Cliff Ammerman said about when he took the handoff, and what Bruce said about where he heard the comment from Bill Radachek. So it basically 5 minutes off, 4 to 5 minutes off. That puts it about 12 to 15 miles off. So basically it would be further upstream, 12 to 15 miles. And if you look at the FBI drop zone and shift it up 12 to 15 miles, it puts you in the Pigeon Springs area. That's the reason why Pigeon Springs. It's also an area that wasn't searched. It hasn't been searched. Now, it has been clear cut. There has been clear cutting that has taken place in all of that forested area, a good portion there. And that also doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, you know, if he had stashed it under a tree or something like that, or a log or whatever, at some point you would think that while they're clear cutting, because I think the clear cut cycle is once every 40 years or maybe it's 28 years. I can't remember at this point. And then they replant and all that, reseed, replant seedlings and all that. You would think that would have given an opportunity for one of those warehouse or employees or workers to have discovered something. But then there's the possibility maybe they did discover something, but they just didn't know what the hell it was. So I don't know.
Yeah,
And that's where the
guess
media
again,
comes in, because maybe there's a guy who's like, oh yeah, I used to work for warehouse and I remember finding a parachute out there 30 years ago, planting seedlings. I mean, you know, but either way, I don't know.
I mean, I guess my issue was if it's Pigeon Springs, Cooper is literally jumping out over an ocean of blackness.
You got
that
it.
just doesn't, I don't think he's that stupid. I mean, we know from talking to Mac that he wanted to see enough lights to know he was above some civilization, but not a lot of lights, you know? So there's kind of a Goldilocks zone where I know that there's civilization down there. And so I want to jump somewhere near a road or something, right? But I don't want to jump in a town where I land on a cop car or something at a four-way stop. So Pigeon Springs would literally be just a sea of blackness under him. That's my problem with it. I don't. And I mean, I have other problems with the timing, but I think
that you're right about that. And I even considered, okay, so he's looking out the back of the jet. Like, what are the nearest lights that he sees? You know, I mean,
I can't even imagine.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, I guess you got Chehalis, you got, you know, Woodland, far west. But I tend to agree with you that alone is like, again, that's not like hard evidence, but it's just common sense. Okay, I'm probably not jumping into sheer utter blackness, because I don't know if I'm like flying over like the Pacific Ocean or Puget Sound or wherever the hell it is. And all I know is, you know, I may not be the sharpest guy in the universe, but I'm pretty sure if I land in water, I'm in a hell of a lot of trouble, you know? So that's kind of why I'm thinking like you on that's problematic. Plus it also is very, very problematic in my mind for explaining the Tina Bar. But that then therefore, you know, I guess what I'm saying here is that, I mean, again, if somebody held me to it, what does Eric Ulis think today? Where am I? I basically just think that I think that the air traffic controllers are to be believed that what they saw, and Bruce and both what Cliff Ammerman recalls happening in terms of the timing, taking over 305 and all that they're accurate, and that the money find is really not any more complicated than he landed near the area within a mile or something like that. And therefore the timing is off on the yellow map and the flight path is off. And I know that, I mean, I can't explain much further than that. I just don't know. But I don't feel at all comfortable after 55 years sticking with the yellow map and saying this is the gospel truth, and let's go ahead and shag our asses up to, you know, La Center area and start looking for DB Cooper's rig.
Okay. I mean, yeah. And so my as discussed earlier, my thought was that this guy is what he's remembering. I think what this guy is remember, 50 years is a long friggin' time. And I suspect that he has watched a DB Cooper program or two. And Rat always does say in the HBO documentary and the Netflix show, Ratajczak says, I told them to mark it on their shrimp boats. You know, he always says this thing. Ratajczak always says this. And so I think that over time, what I think that guy heard is at 7:54 in the transcript, we've got this conversation about him attempting to jump, and the audio of that, we have the audio of that, which I'll play now. This is it. This is at 7:54 when this happens.
In our discussions now with Miss Mucklow. She indicates that he has the knapsack around his person and that he apparently is planning on egressing through the aft stairs with the money knapsack around him and two of the shoes.
And so that's at 7:54, and 7:54 is literally adjacent to Chehalis on the time, right? So in my opinion, I think that he is remembering hearing that, and I think he has morphed that over time into watching shows and the pilot. He's hearing this thing about the guy jumping. To me, that makes the most sense. And I know that there's some issue. You would say, why would they be listening to the frequency that's not the air traffic control frequency? Well, remember that they weren't involved. They're just listening, and they could easily just turn it over to the frequency to Seattle and to Northwest, which is the frequency that all the teletype and stuff is on. So, I mean, if they're interested, then they're gonna eavesdrop on where the drama is. The drama is not on we're passing over DME, blah 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 blah. You know, because if you read the ATC transcript on my website, it's boring. There's nothing to gain from it, really. It's just like ATC stuff. It's all technical stuff. All the real drama about Miss Mucklow says he has a knapsack and the money and he's back there and we're trying to call him and all that stuff is on the regular frequency. So I think those guys would have been listening on the regular frequency. They had no reason to listen on the ATC frequency, in my opinion.
Well,
so
couple of things, and I've specifically addressed this with him. Obviously, what Radachek said, and you played the audio, we all heard it with our own ears. There's no mention of DB Cooper jumped. It says that, Tina thinks he might jump. He may walk down the stairs and jump and all that. So I want to be clear about that. But absolutely critically importantly is they were not listening to the Northwest Orient communication, which is what that is. And I specifically asked him that. He said, we were not listening to Northwest Orient, we were listening to ATC. That's what their air traffic controllers and ATC, they're dealing with ATC to ATC. They're not dealing with company side frequency. So he said, no, it had nothing to do with that. And whatever they heard, which according to him was DB Cooper jumped, was alarming enough to pull out the grease pencil and circle it. And so that's that. Now, again, you and I weren't there, and sure, maybe it's possible that he's just remembering it absolutely incorrectly. And it's not just him, it's also the journeyman air traffic controller. There's two people listening. Apparently, both of them felt like, let's circle this. This is where DB Cooper jumped. So, I mean, yeah, it's possible, but it seems unlikely. Moreover, Cliff Ammerman, talking about him specifically and where he took the handoff from R2, the previous air traffic controller, which we know happened at 7:59, actually probably a minute before, because there's a landline call and they call them and everything else, and then they reach out to the pilots. But Cliff Ammerman said to me that he distinctly remembers Cliff Ammerman's job that night was not to tell Flight 305 where to go or what to do. His job was to keep everybody else away. Yeah. And he said he was feeling anxiety or concern, and it was not just him, it was also his supervisor and others that were watching. They were concerned because they didn't really know for sure exactly where Flight 305 was going to go. It was kind of heading in a southwesterly direction. And he said he breathed a sigh of relief when it made a left-hand turn and started going down Victor 23, because he's like, now I know that, now I felt confident they're going down Victor 23, and that made his job a lot easier. And he's saying the handoff took place before that sigh of relief, in the event, to the tune of, a few minutes, 10 miles, whatever. Again, that's possible that Cliff Ammerman is remembering it incorrectly, but when you talk to him and you think about the story he's telling associated with it, as sure as hell that is believable. Cliff certainly believes it. It certainly is believable, and it's also consistent with Bruce also saying the timing is off. and the jet basically was flying slower than they think it was flying.
But if this guy is saying that this happened on the ATC frequency, I mean, we have the ATC transcripts right here at 754. There's nothing in this about jumping.
That's correct.
So I don't think it happened, Eric. I mean, because it's not in this transcript at 754, and it's not in the other transcript at 754. This is a 50-year-old memory. My God. I mean, we had passenger Nancy House, say that just last week that 2 FBI guys brought the parachutes on the plane. Larry Feingold says that 2 FBI guys brought the money on the plane. Clearly, they're wrong. So why is this guy being held up to some standard?
Couple of things. The reason there's nothing at 754 in the transcripts is because, like I said, it didn't happen at 754. I believe this correlates with the first event where they thought DB Cooper jumped, which happened just after 8 o'clock, which we know at that point was after the handoff. So in other words, that would have been during the blackout zone. It wouldn't have been in the transcripts. That's part of how I'm establishing that the flight path is incorrect. Now, with respect to your question about Nancy House or whomever, again, it's important to remember that in the case of this guy, Bruce, air traffic controller, these guys are trained to circle locations of airplane.
But you know who else was trained?
When an event
these
happens.
Guys, the Air Force professionals who made this map were also trained. The Portland air traffic controller, the Portland Tower in the FBI files, the guy who says it was east of Victor 23, that is an air traffic controller. When it says Portland Tower, there are no other guys in the tower is air traffic control. So like we have a guy in 71 a week later saying it was east of Victor 23, who is the air traffic controller closest to the event. He's saying why are all these other professionals being discounted when what they wrote down literally in real time by what Bill Radachek's a professional pilot. He was there. He was the pilot. And by God, he got things wrong.
So I mean, so you're talking about the bologna.
Why are we listening to a guy 50 years later who we don't know who the fuck he is?
The bologna sandwich guy in Portland. No,
yeah.
What? So that's a little inside baseball for a lot of people, I'm sure. But all that illustrates actually is that there were discrepancies. You have a couple air traffic controllers who were saying that the flight path is incorrect. In one case near Portland, he thinks that the plane was a little further east. In the case of both Ammerman and the other guy who were with ATC, actually, I think in a different level, that they're saying something that's actually pretty consistent there. So again, I mean, I've advocated or I've made my case, and I've said that both Ammerman and Bruce are believable, and I just can't simply discount it and wipe it away but I mean, maybe they're both wrong. That's possible, Ryan. And maybe the flight path and everything is absolutely correct, but then it does lead to some other very problematic issues, like, well, where's the dot at 2004, and where's, why had the money end up at Tina Bar, and why didn't they find anything after 55 years and stuff like that, which, I mean, and what are the ghost plots on the map? I mean, it's just kind of a hot mess. And that's why I said at the beginning of this conversation here that it's a really complicated riddle. And I don't think you can just adjust one piece of the riddle. There almost has to be 2 or 3 things that are wrong that kind of explain it. Let me just ask you, what do you think happened? I assume, I won't put words in your mouth. Do you believe the FBI flight path and the timing is accurate? And where do you think DB Cooper jumped? We know where the FBI drop zone is, but where do you think he jumped? What do you believe?
I just think that, we've got, we've got this. We've got, Radachek at 8:11, pulling his headset off. I mean, it's in plain, it's as in plain English as it could be written in the FBI files. The co-pilot turns his head because they felt a rapid change in pressure. As you would. I mean, that startled them, and what the hell was that? And so, and that's timestamped to 8:11. And for me, I've got, again, I don't know. This is my drop zone. It's somewhere in here. That's, the extent on the far east is about 2.5 to 3 miles, which is how far they thought he would drift if he opened immediately. So this is my drop zone. I mean, this contains all these margins of error for several minutes. So it's somewhere in here.
What's the southern edge? What's the southern edge of it?
It's going to be Battleground, just north of Battleground.
Okay, so just north of Battleground, because the VOR is the Battleground. The VOR in Battleground, I think, is actually north of Battleground. I think it's actually northwest of the city. Okay, and then where's the northern edge? Is that the Lewis River? Just north of Ariel. I mean, that would be because remember, folks, Cooper is going to drift northeast. So northeast. So that's why I've got, but this is just somewhere in, I have no idea. Cause again, this is a lot of this is handwritten, people writing down it's at 8:11. They're looking at their watches or a clock somewhere. I mean, it's not precise. And I think they knew that. We have this document here, which is great, which is basically, this is an FBI prepared document where they're trying to make sense of all these different timestamps. So they've got this call coming in either at 8:10, 8:11, 8:12. And remember, the plane is traveling 3 miles a minute. So you've got, you've got a 9 mile variance really. And that's what I illustrate here. So it's somewhere in here. The FBI split the baby and they said that it happened at 8:11 because they've got 8:12, 8:10, 8:11. They went with 8:11. And I think they further split the baby because remember, as we discussed, the plane is traveling 3 miles a minute. So whether it's at 8:11:01 or 8:11:59, it's 3 miles. So I think they split the baby again and said, okay, let's make it 8:11 in 30 seconds. And you travel 2.5 miles away up northeast of there and you end up at Highland. And that's why in the FBI files, they say, we think he came down at Highland. So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're essentially, after reading all the files and given everything, the full holistic extent of your understanding or knowledge of all this, you're essentially endorsing the FBI's findings with respect to the yellow map and the drop zone.
It's not the FBI. I mean, the thing is, remember, the FBI outsourced all this stuff. I mean, they had no idea. John Detler, who just passed away too, he was the agent on the scene. I mean, yeah, he died recently too. And they had no freaking idea about flight paths and things. So all of this was outsourced to the Air Force and a Northwest Airlines. So all of that stuff about where this happened and that happened came from Northwest. And I guess when I was writing my book, I was trying to reinvent the wheel almost because I really thought that maybe he jumped further south or like this. And I couldn't prove it. I was like, I have no reason to doubt the head of flight operations for Northwest Airlines, who Ronald Reagan wanted him to be the FAA, the head of the FAA, and he denied it. He rejected it or whatever. Paul Soderlund's in the Aviation Hall of Fame. Anybody who takes a flight anywhere in the world now, the anti-turbulence, whatever, some system that pilots use to fly above or around turbulence was his invention. He gets credit for that. So it's like, and he had access to the actual flight data stuff. He had access to the crew. They were friends of his. He could call them up. He could just call them up and say, "Hey, what happened here? What blah blah blah." And these were his findings. And it's like, who am I 50 years later to say that a guy who wanted to get it right? This was an insult to his airline, right? He wanted to get it right. So I have no reason to doubt his general idea of where this happened.
Here's the problem, Ryan, is that you're letting this, I'll call it antiquated notion of holding on to honor or whatever. You're somehow dishonoring somebody if you're challenging their belief.
No,
you're letting that, I think, color your judgment. And I think about,
you're smarter than me. That's all it is. They're smarter than me.
Sure.
Honor. They're smarter than me.
that may be the case. That may be the case. But again, I'll just point out Dr. Leonard Palmer. And Dr. Leonard Palmer, who analyzed the beach strata when the money was found or whatever, misidentified,
Okay.
a dredge spoil layers on the beach where the money was found, which basically had for 28 years everybody believing, the FBI, because Dr. Leonard Palmer is the expert from Portland State University, that the money was found on top of dredge spoils laid upon the beach in 1974. It took Tom Kay, 28 years later, had nothing to do with beach strata, but who could look at a satellite photo, just like all of us, and say, yo, dude, that's a mistake. You're wrong. And sure enough, that is wrong. We realize that indeed the dredge layer that Dr. Leonard Palmer was referring to didn't reach the money find spot. So my larger point is, even experts are not infallible. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Mysteries are mysteries for a reason. Invariably, someone missed something somewhere, somehow, at some time. And that is what we have here. Somebody made a mistake. There are a mistake or two or three mistakes here. And basically, the information's correct. But I think if we brought it into complete crystal clear focus, we'd realize, oh, okay, there's a little bit here and there's an adjustment here, adjustment there, and that would explain it all. And that's all I'm saying is, like, I'm not disparaging Soderlin or anybody for that matter. I'm just saying that all I know is the money was found on Tina Bar and we haven't found anything
So
else.
what?
And
I my question to you is look, you're also an expert on the Gardner heist, right? And I've said this to you before. It's like, if we found, what year was the Gardner heist in? 94?
That was 90.
90, okay.
1990, March of 1990.
Yeah, so I mean, if in 1999 somebody found some of those paintings in somebody's backyard in Quincy, Massachusetts, why would we assume that the thieves were in Quincy that night? Because that's the same assumption you're making with Cooper.
Well, it's
You are.
It's a little different because, like, the money is rotted and we don't have diatoms on it.
Okay, so if the paintings were rotted, rotted in the woods,
and
why would that
also
mean they were there?
I mean, also, we know that in the case of the Gardner heist, we had multiple guys that were involved. It was probably an inside job, and you don't know what kind of fencing network you got going on. So it's a little more complicated than DB Cooper rips off money and jumps out of a jet.
I mean, but the logic example is still there.
But I mean, so I think that it's a really, really crude analogy, but I do believe,
I don't think it's crude at all.
I do believe, that the money find at Tina Bar is a very critical piece of evidence, and it's probably a hell of a lot cleaner and easier to understand than a lot of people are making it out to be. Therefore, what I'm essentially saying is that it makes sense to me, given where the money was found. It's on an island, basically all that kind of stuff, and the condition it was found. It obviously been there for a long time, and it's not buried in a bag. And we know the flooding history, and we know that there weren't diatoms from the winter and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, boy, it sure looks like to me like the guy landed close to Tina Bar, mile away or something, and just walked to the beach and temporarily buried the money and walked into town and then came back at a later date. I may be wrong, but boy, that's just what it looks like to me. And there's nothing else that indicates that on the outside, save it be maybe the FBI flight path and all that, which I've called into question for a number of other reasons, not the least of which are the air traffic controllers here, So that's just kind of where I live. But I mean, Ryan. I'm thinking of Brian McDevitt with the Gardner heist. Ryan. I don't 100% know. I don't 100% know. I don't have any photographs of anybody. I don't see DB Cooper waving to the Ring camera on anybody's door or anything.
Well, what's funny about it, Eric, is I'm tickled because you and I are notable researchers, I would say, in this case. And what's remarkable is I'm laughing because it's funny how two people can, it's like Tina Barr is a big deal to you. The money find is everything. And for me, it's nothing. Like it may as well not have happened. I don't give a shit about Tina Barr, like at all, because it's 9 years apart. There's nothing, there are literally a million scenarios that somebody could invent to explain how it got there, who had it, when it was buried. We don't know anything. So to me, the only thing it's good for is that Cooper survived, in my opinion, because it's the best evidence he survived, because wherever his drop zone was, it wasn't on Tina Barr. His body did not crater on Tina Barr. So
are you saying that by definition, if you're saying it's evidence that DB Cooper survived, you're saying it's evidence that DB Cooper buried the money at Tina Barr?
No.
Nope. Okay.
Because the thing is, in my world that I live in, this is the drop zone. Okay. And that drop zone is well away from Tina Barr. Okay. 15, 20 miles away. So in my world, the only way for the money to get there with a dead Cooper is some yokel finds Cooper dead in the woods, buries him and all of his gear so well that nobody finds shit for 50 years. Then that person takes the money and goes and buries it 20 miles away. So like, I can't explain how Cooper got the money there. I can't explain why he got it there or how the money got there. I think Cooper himself might not know how the money got there. Honestly, I don't know. But regardless, if the money escapes the drop zone, then it's way more likely that Cooper himself escaped the drop zone. That's all.
So you're basically saying that it proves, well, I don't want to say it proves, but it seems to strongly suggest that DB Cooper survived. But however, it doesn't mean that DB Cooper, you're perfectly comfortable saying DB Cooper may well not have buried the money on Tina Barr. Like he got,
I have no idea.
Like
9 years is a long time.
And it fell in the river or something. Like, I mean, some crazy exotic story. Because
9 years is a long time.
Yeah, it's a long time, but the money was there for a long time. And we know that 75% of the bills had rotted away. When you look at those DB Cooper bills, you see that they're pretty evenly rotted away. All there is the center section. This is on the better examples. You got 75% of the bill that's gone. You're looking at what represents about 25% of the bill. Moreover, the bill itself has shrunk about 10%. Rubber bands were fused to the, a couple of the pieces were fused to the outside of a couple of the bills. It had obviously been there more than like 6 months. So, it had been there a long time.
I need to clarify something. Okay. When I say Tina Barr is meaningless to me, what I mean is it's not going to tell us who Cooper was. I guess that's my thing, is that it doesn't tell us anything. I don't know how Tina Barr advances us solving the case, in my opinion. That's all.
I'll tell you how it advances and helps solve the case. Because I believe that if Tina Barr actually is a very powerful clue or an indication of approximately where he landed, which I tend to believe is the case, even though I'm still a little torn, I'm not 1,000,000,000% certain about that. That means to me that parachute, at a minimum, that parachute is in all likelihood, can't guarantee it, but it sure as hell makes a lot of sense that parachute is very nearby and perhaps something else. And if we can locate that, we have no idea what we may uncover there. Maybe the rest of the bomb is there because he jumped with the bomb. So maybe he offloaded the batteries or whatever the hell flares were part of it. That's also there. And we may be able to reverse engineer a lot of this stuff. Maybe there's a fingerprint on the electrical tape that was used. It may actually blow the thing wide open. I don't know, but I'm telling you what, it wouldn't be surprised. So I think it's absolutely critical. And I think it may well actually lead to us solving the case and figuring out exactly who the guy is for no other reason. There's a fingerprint on the electrical tape if we find that.
Well, and the beautiful part about this, Eric, is that when we've got people like yourself who are really interested in Tina Barr, you've made great connections with the Fazios. You've done your own digging out there. Some stuff you've done with Tom has really helped us understand Tina Barr more. again, Tina Bar is not something I'm into. I'm also not into tie particle stuff. It's all over my head, but I'm so glad that people like you and Chris Brower and Nikki and Drew Daniel are really involved in the tie stuff, because again, I don't know if I don't know anything about the tie, but it's a piece of evidence, right? And I'm not going to ignore a piece of evidence, even though I don't. Again, my focus has always been on his personality, maybe the way he looks, things like this, things that can. My thing has always been discounting. Like, I'm a historian. I just like the story of Cooper. Really, that's my thing. I like the whole story of it. And I'm actually not even trying to actively solve it. People say, oh, trying to solve. I'm not trying to solve the case. I'm letting other people do that. I'm busy with nerding out on the history of it, right? I mean, I let other people do that. But I can certainly know enough about the case to eliminate some people as suspects and say there's no way this guy with his fat nose is going to be Cooper, or Walter Recca's big nose is Cooper. You know what I'm saying? There's just, so I think that's where my thing is. But I'm so glad that there are people like you. And that is one thing that I've always appreciated about you, Eric, is you are, and I mean this for anybody, Auriculus. I know of no other character, fictional or real, who is more magnanimous as a human being than you are. And I mean that. Like you've taken a lot of insults from people, Eric, and you don't give a shit. It's like, and you don't hold grudges either, which is a great thing. I don't hold grudges really much either, but like, I appreciate that about you, because, my blood can boil sometimes. I can be very passionate about certain things, and I have shouted at you before, but I didn't mean it ugly, and you to your credit, don't receive it ugly.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that about you. And no, he really is the most magnanimous person I've ever in history come across. And I know anybody who knows you will say that. Where does that come from?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you that it's like I'm 60 years old now, and so I've been around a little while, and I have yet to see anybody walk on water yet. And and what I mean by that, I'm not a particularly religious person. I'm pretty agnostic as far as that goes. But like, Lord knows, I mean, I've had my fair share of doing people wrong at times and things of that nature, and that's just sort of the human condition, isn't it? And so, I know that when we're dealing with something of this nature, people get very passionate about things, and sometimes they say in things and do things that they I'm sure they mean in the heat of the moment. They don't necessarily mean what in the long run or whatever. And so there's that part of it where it's just kind of like I try to extend grace, even though it's not really born of any kind of like religious sort of affiliation or anything of that nature, or calling or what have you. The other thing is that I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I want to figure out who this guy is, and it's better to kind of work collaboratively with people to the degree that you can do that, and like not burn bridges and be friends with people and that kind of thing. And certainly some hot words and things are said or what have you. And so it's just kind of like good business. It just makes sense from that standpoint. Like, it just makes a hell of a lot of sense just to kind of like, not be a dick, to people, but that's it. I don't know that I'm the most magnanimous person. I mean, I have people, I've told people who know me well, I've said, there's no one I hate. There's no one I hate in this world, but there are people that I strongly dislike. And that's the truth, I mean, to be sure, there are people that I strongly dislike, but that's okay. I mean, America is all about second chances and all that kind of stuff. And to be like I said, I mean, I've wronged some people and done some stuff in the past that I'm not proud of. But again,
everybody does.
That's kind of life, man. Like you you grace the face of Mother Earth for 60 years, you're going to fuck over a few people and you're going to get fucked over by a few people. That's just kind of it, man. You know, and I probably say the F-bomb a few too many times as well.
Well, so what is people? So some people are asking you about.
Sure, yeah.
Some people are asking you about your upcoming search. So are you doing that? Are you looking for volunteers to help out?
I am. So I'm glad you brought that up. Yes, so Wednesday, September 16th. I put it up on the DB Cooper mystery group that it's going to be Wednesday, September 16th, searching near Pigeon Springs. I have had a handful of people reach out to me, and I apologize to anybody that may be watching. I've responded to some people, said I'll get back in a few days, and I haven't done that. I've dropped the ball, in part because I've been sort of involved with a few other things here. I'm leaning toward, at this point, actually shifting it closer to Tina Bar versus Pigeon Springs. I'll certainly let everybody know as far as that goes, because there's just nothing like getting boots on the ground. I mean, you know, so much of this is, you know, people, you know, you're behind a computer screen or whatever the case may happen to be. And that's terrific. But I mean, there's nothing like getting out there, putting boots on the ground, putting eyes on the scene, smelling the air, and, you know, just sort of getting a feel for that area. And at the end of the day, you know, if I really believe that it's near Tina Bar, I guess my expectation or hope is that at some point I'm going to be, lo and behold, there it is. There is the, you know, there's the parachute or the rig or a battery or something like that, you know, that may be of significance. The other thing, which is a little bit more calculating, is that the media, the local media in particular, and the national media tends to pick up on it, loves that kind of stuff. And I just think that, you know, that's important to breathe life into this case from time to time, and keep people engaged and interested. And like we talked about at the very beginning, you know, maybe somebody comes along and says, yeah, I remember something, or maybe a Bruce comes along and provides, you know, some new information or something of that nature. But that's it. And I want to return the favor too, because in terms of, you know, I'm a straight shooter. I think everybody kind of knows that, in terms of like, I really kind of sort of don't give a fuck what people think, because I am who I am. Like, you know, Eric Ulis has defined Eric Ulis. So what other people say is like, I appreciate that, but, you know, I've defined myself and I am who I am. But I tell you what, Ryan, I think I remember you kind of coming on the scene, I would say, what has that been? Maybe
5 years ago, probably.
Okay, I was going to say, yeah, 5-6 years ago, something like that. And obviously you've made a name for yourself. You've got a terrific following on YouTube. You got terrific videos, and you've shown me some stuff as well that I don't know if you've released it publicly or not, that's really terrific. I think your sketch, one of the sketches, and I know I've mentioned this publicly, that one of your sketches of DB Cooper, I think is literally the closest one there is. You know, I don't, you know, I mean, you may have access to it or not, but I just think that that's the sketch. That's like the go-to sketch as far as I'm concerned, as far as DB Cooper. But, you know, I think that, so you've done a terrific amount in terms of bringing the case to the people. But the thing that I think is really kind of invaluable about what you're doing here is you're sort of like, you're taking the, I was going to say the FBI kind of approach, or the sort of what the FBI files, and that's kind of it. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but it is really, really refreshing in a world, in a DB Cooper world, the DB Cooper universe, where you have people running off in all kinds of different directions and tangents and conspiracies left and right and all kinds of crazy wacko shit, everything from, you know, fucking aliens to, you know, other crazy shit.
Walter Recca.
Stuff like that. It's really refreshing and nice to listen to somebody or read somebody, which I'll get to in a moment, read somebody who, you know, has just made it his sort of like life's passion, at least as far as I understand it, to dig into those files and basically say, this is sort of the official version,
Yeah.
And here's where there are some conflicts, and here's where it's like seems to be a lot of harmony. And this is like sort of the best that we got to work with in terms of like piecing this thing together. And along those lines, have you mentioned anything publicly about the book, or
No, that's a secret.
okay, so shall I just not say anything?
No. No.
So I won't say anything. So, but either way, the point is that I very much recognize and value that.
Thank you.
Enormous contribution, really. And you know as well as I do that there's been more than one occasion where I've reached out to you and said, where did this happen, or where does it say this, or whatever, so
yeah. I mean, you just have to, I mean, that was kind of my approach, was just that there was a vacuum, it seemed like, there was nobody who was just approaching it from a historiosity aspect where it's like, this is what they said in the files. And the book, there's no speculation at all in the book, like none that's my own, it's just not, I say nothing about my own opinions in the book, really. I mean, like I have no doubt that there are biases in my writing that I don't even recognize, I'm sure. But I have no reason to doubt. Like, my thing is, look, I mean, what somebody said in 71, like before it became DB Cooper, like, for example, the best example I can give is Michael Cooper, Larry Feingold, Jack Olmstead. Those three guys, passengers I can name, have all since said in recent years that, oh yeah, I saw Cooper, and he looked like this, whatever. Well, we have their documents from 1971 where all three of them, we have their 302s of them saying, I didn't see shit. I don't know. And so, like, I never saw the guy. So it's like, I'm sorry, but I believe what you said. It wasn't DB Cooper to these people. It was, they thought the guy was going to get caught an hour later. I mean, they had no expectation that, when Flo is giving her statement, people are like, oh, well, maybe Flo's lying. Or I'm like, Flo has no reason to lie 15 minutes after getting off the plane, because for all she knows, they're going to storm the plane and kill the guy an hour from then. So, like, there's no agenda to, like, make it a bigger thing than it is, and that's human nature, is once it becomes a thing, to insert yourself into that thing more than you were in that thing. And so, it's like, I don't know. It just, so I think that it's good to have somebody. I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just saying that Dave Feudman's actually the reason. Dave did not like, because, I was working on Verdal and some things, and I was trying to solve the case. And Dave Feudman, of all people, was like, Ryan, you love history. Just be the historian of this case, and don't mess around with suspects. And I was like, okay. And I accepted that as my life's work, is to tell the, whether it's true or not, I don't know, but I'm telling the story as the FBI wrote it. I guess. That's all.
Well, I think that, I think it is the truth. I think that's exactly right. I think that, I think that, like I said, I think that's an important contribution. And it's actually a very unique contribution, because, like I said, human nature is such that as time goes on and these things become, ever greater mysteries in sort of the annals of American history, that, there has to be an explanation, and therefore all of a sudden conspiracies, it's an FBI, CIA cover-up, President Nixon and the re-election campaign were involved, and all these kind of things. It's a black ops guy. It was Walter Recca. All kind of crazy shit starts coming out of the woodwork, landing in Cle Elum or whatever. So, it's just,
it's a clever bank robbery. That's my whole thing, is people make it more than it is. It's a very clever bank robbery, and there's no conspiracies. There's no FBI. There's no CIA cover up. It's just, again, as Larry Carr mentions, even today, the clearance rate on bank robberies is only 75%. So even today, they only catch 75% of bank robbers. So honestly, and when I'm doing the research, when I'm reading this stuff about Cooper, I'm like, how the hell did anybody get caught for anything back then, before there's cameras? And the answer is they talked. That's the common denominator. McCoy talked too much. Mac talked too much. They talked too much. Heinemann on the plane was telling people where his mother was born, where his dad was buried, who he
Oh, my
worked for.
God.
Like, what are you doing? Like, I mean, literally. So, like, the way to get away with the crime is to shut your mouth.
Yeah.
Then and now, even. And
Yeah.
I think that was Cooper's superpower, is he kept his mouth shut and told nobody, probably, and probably died within 10 years. I think my guess would be, I don't think he lived that much longer, in my opinion.
You mentioned something not too long ago, something about, sort of the profile of DB Cooper or what have you.
Yeah.
What is your, what is the profile? I mean, 'cause
I don't know.
Okay. You have no, okay. Yeah.
No. I mean, there isn't one. See, the problem is, whenever I see people online, like these psychologists, people are always like, Ryan, get a psychologist to do Cooper. He's too inconsistent. Like, he's way too inconsistent. I mean, everything he does that makes you think he's smart on this topic, he does something later on in the hijacking to make you think he's an idiot on this certain thing. It's like, he is so inconsistent. I don't know. If I had to guess, it's like, he is, I think it's too coincidental that the Air America, right there, when they would do airdrops from 727s, they were flying at 10,000 feet, flaps at 15, gear down. And like, that is literally what Cooper said. And for me, it's like, that's almost too coincidental to believe. And that's not saying that Cooper was Air America. He could have known somebody who was related to the Air America stuff, but the profile fits. If you read, I found an article from 1972 where a guy is talking about who he hires for Air America. He's an Air America like guy high up. And he says, almost all of our people are in their mid 40s. They're ex-military in their mid 40s who don't have a steady job somewhere else. And this is what they know. It kind of reminds me of like the Blackwater guys in Iraq or whatever. There's a lot of, they're mercenaries essentially. And that's what Air America was. They were mercs. And that to me lines up with Cooper's personality a little bit. He's really relaxed under stress. He's about that age. And so there's some gun to my head, and I would be a dead man, I'm sure, but gun to my head, I would have to say he was somehow a mid-40s former military guy who had some connection to Air America or knew somebody that knew Air America. That's just me. And I don't know how that lines up with the tie. That's the problem.
That's what I was going to say, is that's the problem.
Yeah.
In my mind is that, the tie particles, as far as we understand it, it appears to suggest that this guy was involved in the metallurgical world, pretty sophisticated stuff. By the way, I'll be speaking at a metallurgical event in Pittsburgh on October 15th. So anybody who's in Pittsburgh who wants to know more about it can reach out to me. You probably know if you live in the Pittsburgh area.
The home of Rim Crew.
Yeah, that's right. The Rim Crew, Crucible Steel, Vince Peterson, all that good stuff there. But, I tend to think of him as just a guy who was about 50 years of age, pretty well educated, metallurgist or in that space in some manner. It makes sense to me that he would have lost his job, gotten a pink slip, something of that nature in 71 related to sort of the downfall of all that industry back then. And that he would have basically sort of been financially distressed and off enough where he thought, hell, this is a good idea. Let me give it a shot. And maybe a situation where he was just sort of like mulling his options in life. And then all of a sudden the Paul Cine event happens in Canada. I think it was 13 or 11 days before. I can't remember off the top of my head. 13 days before. And it just kind of like, it's like, you know what, sparked something in his mind, and he decided to do it. And it was something that he basically put together quickly. But, I don't think that there was anything superhero about the guy. I just
Oh,
think he
no.
was, like you said, I just think he kept quiet. He knew enough to just loose lips sink ships, the old World War II thing.
Mhm.
And I just think he was one step ahead and continued to stay one step ahead of the authorities. And that's all it takes. And so I think it's pretty simple. I don't think it's particularly sexy. I mean, when we uncover the real guy, and I say when we uncover the real guy, very optimistic attitude about that approach about that. I think he'll be kind of ho-hum in a way, it'd be kind of like, okay, this is not exactly Rambo. It's more like, name your not particularly sexy
it's like,
dude, so.
Yeah, because it's like I often mentioned that, like, meeting McNally,
Yes.
if Mac had not talked, Mac might have got away with it. And there is, I wrote this in the book. I said, if Mac had not been caught, the Robert Wilson mystery, which was his alias, would be infinitely more desirable to study than the Cooper hijacking, which is rather boring because nothing really dramatic happened. Whereas in Mac's hijacking, right, you have this drunk crash his car into the 727. You've got Mac, who's never put on a parachute, jumping out at 330 miles an hour. and then hitching a ride. The first ride he hitchhikes.
Yeah.
The first car that pulls up is the sheriff.
Yeah.
And Mac bullshits his way for the sheriff to take him into town. Then Mac ends up staying in a hotel with 50 FBI guys for a week. And like the Robert Wilson mystery, but the reason that freaks me out is I'm like, and I wrote this in the book. I said I could live 1,000 lifetimes studying the Robert Wilson mystery, and I never would come across Martin McNally, unemployed gas station worker from Wyandotte, Michigan. Never.
Yeah.
Right? Because we're all looking for G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And it's probably not G.I. Joe, because G.I. Joes would have been turned into the FBI. I know a badass down the road,
Yeah. That's exactly right.
It's probably going to be somebody that nobody would have expected.
I think that's exactly it. It's somebody where the neighbors would be shocked. They're like, Bob was DB Cooper. Are you kidding me? No way.
Yeah.
This guy likes to, eat chips and watch Lawrence Welk on the weekends. There's no way he's, doing that shit. But yeah, he's like, the 1971 fucking version of Rambo there. So I don't know, but
it could have been. I mean, who knows? But I'll Eric, I've kept you on too long. I kept you on for an hour and a half. So I'm gonna let Eric go. I'm gonna stay on, folks, because I like to talk to you guys. So we're gonna say goodbye to Eric. And
all right,
thank you.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it very much. The opportunity.
Bye.
You bet. Take it easy. You bet. Bye.
All right. So here I am. Okay. Oh, wow, I'm big now. Hello, folks. I'm a little too big. I'm too big. Can I minimize myself? I'm too big. That's what she said. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I'm a little too big in this screen. I'm terrifying looking. Okay. Anyway, so we can talk about things. Eric and I had some all-time debates. Let me do that. Oops, too big. There we go. Yeah. Eric and I had some all-time debates together on the Facebook group. And anybody who was not on the DB Cooper mystery group back in 22, 23 missed out on a lot. Him and I had some incredible arguments. And I had a propensity to overreact at the time to Eric, and it made good. It was entertaining, specifically when he was dead wrong on things, which I love Eric, but I mean, again, I just have to question why somebody's memory 50 years later is relevant at all. Like I see no relevance in this air traffic controller. Do any of you? I mean, I see no relevance in what a random guy who we have no way to verify whether he's even there says. It just, I don't care. Like, I mean, again, we have the people who were there. We know verified. I don't know who this Bruce guy is. He could be lying. I mean, again, we have a lot of liars in this case. A lot. I mean, there was a guy who went around, an old man, shame on him. There was like an 85-year-old man who went around telling people he flew one of the chase planes and that Cooper flipped him off before jumping. And people agreed with that. This is an old man. You don't expect an 80-year-old man to be bullshitting. But clearly this guy was. And so I don't know who this guy is, the ATC guy. And I don't, even if he was there, it's not relevant. Pat says he disagrees on memory. Well, okay, fine. But I mean, what do you mean how do you disagree on memory, Pat? I mean, again, we have so much evidence of people misremembering things. Just, okay, an example. I mean, I was texting Bill Mitchell the other day, and I sent Bill an AI video of it might be, I wonder if I have that to share with you people. I sent Bill an AI video of him looking over at, okay, maybe it's this one here. Is it this one? Yeah. I sent Bill an AI video because Bill likes my AI videos. He's like, oh, I look young. He's like, oh, it's good to see myself again. Well, that's not going to be it. But here's Bill looking over. But there's Bill. But anyway, I sent Bill an AI of him looking over at Flo and Cooper. I have to have that somewhere. Surely do I have that somewhere for you people? Hell, I guess I guess I don't. That makes me upset. But anyway, I sent Bill this clip of himself looking over at Flo and Cooper. And Bill texted me back. He says, I never saw Flo and Cooper. I only saw Tina and Cooper. And I'm like, damn it, Bill, I have to be, well, actually, guy. I don't like being, well, actually. And I said, well, Bill, in your 302 that you told the FBI 10 minutes after getting off the plane, you said a dark-haired stewardess sat next to the man and they wrote some things down. Well, that's Bill seeing Flo writing down the ransom demands, right? And Bill just wrote back like, I'll be damned. Okay. So why would anyone think your memory would be better 50 years after an event? And I mean, that's fine. People can remember things, but I have no problem with people remembering things 50 years ago, but what's more likely to be accurate? What you memorialized in writing 50 years ago or your memory 50 years later? I mean, it's obviously going to be what you wrote or what you said at the time. And the idea, it's not cherry picking, Pat. Not at all. It's not cherry picking when you go with the earliest statement. Okay. That's my thing. I go with the earliest statement. If you contradict yourself, I'm going, and like, I mean, Radachek contradicted himself a lot, and Tina does too. Flo has said things that contradict what she said, at the time. And I'm gonna go with the earliest statement. That's all. And whether it's right or not, I don't know. But it's a lot easier to just go with the earliest statement than to go, well, maybe they meant this or that, or maybe their memory, and it's like, it's just it's a false memory. I mean, again, Nancy House said that 2 FBI guys came on the plane with parachutes. That's a false memory. Larry Feingold says he saw 2 guys bring the money on the plane. Another false memory. What they're remembering is Al Lee and Owen McKenna out by the Dodge Dart standing there. They had no reason to assume that those were not FBI guys. Whereas in fact, Al Lee is with Northwest Airlines and Owen McKenna is a Seattle PD undercover detective. They're both in plain clothes, these guys. So they assumed those were FBI guys. And, you know, and I would say too, you just go with the earliest statement. Okay. And Fringe is saying, do you give weight to the Latin stance? Yeah, I do. Because that seems to mesh with his skin tone, right? His skin tone was essentially universally dark. You know, so that seems to match with Latin. And Flo is our best witness to his face. I am firmly convinced of that because she interacted with him either 7 or 8 different times before he even put on his glasses. Okay. So, and they had a staring contest. I mean, they literally had a uncomfortable moment where he just stared at her and she stared back at him. And finally she just goes, "Can I help you, sir? Are you all right?" So, I mean, she was looking at his eyes. So she saw this guy. And she said he looked of Latin descent. Okay. And then you have Gregory, who was proven to be in my opinion, a good witness, also saying he's Latino or Mexican, Native American. So Cooper is not an average white guy. I don't think. I think there is some, now whether he could be Italian, Jewish, Norwegian dark, who knows? Mediterranean, Greek, Mexican. How dark did Skip's skin ever get? I've got a photo of Skip. He looks pretty damn dark. Let me find that. Yeah, Skip. I got a photo of Skip somewhere where he looks pretty damn dark. Oh hell. Oops, my bad, folks. Talk amongst yourselves. Let me see. Suspect. Sorry, folks. You put me on the spot. Here we go. Yeah, he looks pretty dark in this photo. I think this is when he's older. I mean, that is a swarthy person, right? I mean, you would say that is a swarthy man, right? So yeah, I mean, Skip is dark skinned. I mean, no doubt about it. That's not a very clear picture, but no, Skip is dark enough to be Cooper, in my opinion. I mean, someone like Kenny Christensen is not dark enough to be Cooper. Can you show us your sketch that Eric referenced? I have been on the AI thing for so long that I don't know what sketch he's talking about. I really don't know. It's been a minute since oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So but anyways, Skip looks like Walt Disney. He kind of does. I've had that thought too. He does. When are we getting the Grider interview? Never. Grider will never come on my show. You're welcome for having. Yeah, I'm glad to have Eric on as a guest. Eric's a friend of mine. I mean, really. I mean, Eric and I talk on the phone like bros. I mean, about things, and I like Eric a lot. My only issue with your AI Coop is he is still too handsome. Is he? I mean, I don't know. Again, I guess I'm not and again, AI has a hard time too. Okay, so I wonder if Eric might be thinking of maybe this old sketch, this old thing I had mean, that might be what Eric's referring to. But the as far as current Cooper, I don't know. I mean, is he too handsome? I mean, I can make him uglier, maybe. Can try. I mean, I don't know. What do you guys think? Is he too? I mean, I don't know if he's home. Blevins, I would have Blevins on for sure. I would definitely have Pat. I'll have Pat on. But I don't know if this guy's handsome or not. I mean, I don't know. But like I said, AI has a really hard time making people ugly. That's what I'll say. What is my stance on Milton Vordal? Because I have never been more convinced that anyone was Cooper other than him. Milton is one of those first loves for Cooper. I love Milton Vordal just as a person. It's kind of like Ted Braden. I like Milton way more as a person than as Cooper suspect. The more I've learned about Cooper, I think there are some things about Milton's appearance that maybe turned me off a little bit. And again, Cooper seems different than other hijackers in that he seems to really kind of know what he's doing. Thoughts on Beeson's new podcast? I've listened to it. Yes, Eric has a YouTube site, Ericulus on YouTube. Drew's new podcast is really well done. It's like the production is killer. I mean, yeah, Join Jen's right. I'm with you. I don't think we know who Cooper is yet. I don't think anybody does. Did you guys inadvertently give credence to the high probability he was military and possibly stationed in McCord by knowing about the gap communications? No, I didn't think about that, Augie. It's an interesting thought, but there's only a gap, and I think Eric may have overemphasized that. It's not really a gap. It's just that when you're at 10,000 feet, you're either going to be on a low frequency or the high frequency. And I don't think Cooper didn't care that he was being tracked by radar, right? I mean, because the whole thing is when you jump, Cooper was under no illusions that they weren't going to know where the plane was. I'm surely he knew this was going to be the most watched aircraft in America at the time, right? So the issue was when you jump. That's what you're trying to do. And Cooper never expected the pressure bump to give him away. And my God, if we did not have the pressure bump, holy crap. I mean, we literally would be talking Seattle to Reno would be where he jumped out. It would be a nightmare if we didn't have the pressure bump. I mean, you talk about a mystery of epic proportions. Have I done a video on the guy who died from internal injuries? The one I think is too young. No, because I can't give away his information because the family doesn't want me to. Why did the FBI get photos of 5'8" guys in front of the Stews? I don't know, but the Stews would say he was too short. I mean, we've got. Wish I could find it, but maybe it's under the physical features height. Okay, I don't have that. But yeah, I mean, we've got Flo rejecting. She's saying like she's looking at a 302 or something, and she's like, "This guy's way too short." She says that the guy's too short to be Cooper, in her opinion. She says this guy doesn't look like Cooper, and also I'm seeing here that he's listed as 5'7" or whatever, and she's like, I don't think he's. No, she says that guy's too short to be Cooper in my memory. So I mean, and again, the FBI are not going to like outright reject somebody. So let's see. But yeah, I'm not a fan of Tina Barr stuff. You know, I'm just not a. Did Rax drive a turkey neck? No. You're saying pressure bump has given the Vortex what in terms of actionable evidence? Nothing. And that's just it. That's why I'm not a big. I've never been into Tina Barr, and I've never been into Flight Path. Okay, that's not my thing. Those are the two blind spots. Not blind spots, but the two things that I am least. God Almighty! Thank you, Joe. That's a hell of a super chat. Thank you. I hope that YouTube doesn't take half of it. That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And CooperCon is not cheap, and we do lose money on CooperCon for sure. Ryan, has anyone searched Highland? I was literally, thank you, Joe. I really do appreciate you, man. I'll reach out. I actually told Eric today on the phone, I said, Eric, there is a lot of woods that is privately owned, right? Chris Brower found this right where the FBI said he came down. Okay. Why don't you search there? And Eric just laughed about it, but you know, I mean, why don't you, yeah, I was like, so why don't you just search there, Eric? You know? So, anyways, yeah. What am I doing? Is that, but yeah, I mean, I don't know, folks. Is my Cooper too handsome? Y'all let me know, because I can always make adjustments, but I kind of like the way he looks now. Not really too into changing him much. I like him. He's got the hair and the nose, and he's got what I want. That's your dad's. Steve Hart says that's his. Is it really? That's your dad's property? Well, then you need to message Eric and get Eric's ass out there, because Eric will. He'll go on the ground. Steve, really? I mean, will Eric be at CooperCon? I hope so. Do you think Flo would find him too handsome? I don't know. I'm not in contact with Flo. I should ask Flo. He looks too European. Well, I mean, Cooper didn't look like an average white guy, apparently. So, was the new suspect from CooperCon 2012 murdered? Perhaps. Maybe. He died under weird circumstances. I'll just say that. He died on June 6th. And he was a D-Day veteran, which is interesting. He died on a certain anniversary of when he jumped out on D-Day, but he was a paratrooper on D-Day. How about if Cooper had a watch in his pocket? Maybe. He asked Tina for the time and said constantly. Tina says that he did not have a watch, and he was always asking her for the time. So, yeah, he didn't have a watch for sure. But yeah, the new guy certainly may have died, but he died on June 6th. It is funny. You survived D-Day and you died on June 6th. So what do I think was in his bag? Did they ever see what he had in it? No. And that is why it's called the mystery bag, right? It's the mystery bag, right? That's why it's called. So, I mean, whatever was in there was not used during the actual hijacking. And so whatever was in it had to be something for his escape or for his jump, right? Because the only thing he miracled out of thin air were his cigarettes and matches. So, and a pocket knife. The rest of it, you know, there's mystery bag Cooper. Gosh, AI has come a long way, hadn't it? That's from a year ago, and it looks so antiquated compared to, you know, what we're dealing with now, right? I mean, for example, I'll show you guys, like, how good does, I mean, some of these stuff lately is so good. It's shocking, some of the AI. I'll have to show it to you guys at another time, but it's really cool. Okay. Yeah. And the AI, I mean, it's funny. Somebody wrote on a comment, am I old? Somebody said, somebody was bitching about the AI in my videos. And they're like, why is it always with olds on YouTube that they love AI? I'm like, am I an old? Maybe I am. Ryan, do we really know if the negotiable American currency statement is pure verbatim from Cooper, or could it have been misinterpreted? We don't know. No proof he said that. I mean, he qualified it with something. Okay, there was a qualifier. He either said American currency or U.S. currency, because Tina says that Cooper said, I need it in U.S. currency, and Radachek has this American currency. So independent of each other, they've got him having a qualifier of some sort, and that is such a strange ass thing to say. Again, probability would say that Cooper was American. I mean, just probability, but that's an odd thing for an American to say. I mean, I have a really hard time imagining an American walking in to a bank and saying, you know, I'm not going to go rob a bank and say, I want, you know, give me all your money. Give me all your American currency. Give me $200,000. Give me $200,000. I don't know. Radachek is a very, I don't know why Radachek would have said that if there wasn't some reason to say that, you know, because here's the thing. The whole U.S. currency, American currency, that comes from Tina. Okay. When Flo brings the note up, we have Radachek saying, he wants $200,000, you know, and then later on, we have this whole American negotiable currency thing. What is the probability that Flo Schaffner and Tina Mucklow were so attractive? Are they attractive? I mean, I don't know. They're not ugly, either of them. But did Ralph Himmelsbach have any interactions with Cooper? No, certainly not. Why would you think that? Why would you think that Himmelsbach had anything to do with Cooper? I don't know. Let's see. But yeah, the AI stuff has gotten pretty cool lately. You know, especially like with him falling down. I've been trying to make videos of him, you know, crashing down into the ground or whatever. You know, but here are a couple good ones, people. I'll show you a couple good AI things. Some people are wanting it. Okay, we'll do that, because like I don't know if I'm ever going to use these in videos or not, but I make them and I enjoy them, and so I like to share them. Because a lot of times what I'm doing almost like thought experiments to see how things play out. I don't know. But like here's Cooper having a landing. Boom. Oh. Like pretty neat. Or I've got them talking to Flo in the days after the hijacking. That's them asking Flo about his eyes. Okay. They came back to Flo 2 days later and they said, Flo, can you tell us about his eyes? And you can see her saying, I'm sorry, I can't remember. And then we've got Tina reviewing when they brought Tina the comp B sketch. I've got that. I mean, it looks pretty realistic, don't you think? Does Mark think Coop made the jump? Mark Meltzer? It's about Mark Meltzer. Why cigarettes were destroyed by FBI in this case. Murder cases, DNA evidence is saved from the 70s. I mean, but yeah, okay, a bloody rag in a murder case, sure, that's going to be kept from the 70s. But the cigarettes, I mean, I just don't think they had I mean, I would say it's negligence to destroy anything in a case, but they did. The Vegas FBI are the villains here. The Vegas FBI are the ones who threw the cigarettes away. Vegas FBI are the ones who lost the hair slide. It's almost like maybe Cooper was in Vegas and made these things happen. I don't know. Just joking. Lots of middle-aged men have turkey necks. Yeah, look at me. So do some AI videos of Richard McCoy as DB Cooper. That would be the closest thing McCoy ever gets to being Cooper. Last AI video, the FBI agent had the neck. Yeah. Please don't change Cooper. Yeah, I'm not. I think I've got him. I think I've got Cooper. I got him right where I want him. That's what I think. I don't think. Yeah, I'm probably not going to change Cooper. I don't see any reason to change him at this point. Can I do AI renditions of the new suspects in lieu of the photographs? You aren't allowed. Well, no. Well, I mean, I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yeah, you could, because it's not a photograph of him. Can I wiggle around that somehow? I mean, maybe. But here's another one of Cooper. Hey, what's up? But that's what I really need to do is, and I may have a contest or something. We really need to figure out. We really need to figure out what the hell, we really need to figure out what the heck to call, where is he? What to call this guy here, right? The initial sketch, right? I mean, we didn't have a name for that guy. I called him Wavy Gravy because he had kind of this wavy hair, but I don't know. He needs a name. We got Bing, Carrie, the Hoodlum, Dracula. I need to have like a contest or something on Facebook of what to call that guy, right? I mean, that guy there, I called him Rico Suave for a while. Where is he? Yeah, here we go. I think it's kind of it's an AI version of that because we don't have a good quality of that one at all. So like I had to do AI on it. And like if you put AI on this guy, it spits out this, which looks Roy Rose-ish enough for me. But yeah, I don't know what to call this guy. Do I have any of the bills from the hijacking? And no, I don't have 50 grand to drop on it. A lot of folks say Cliff Robertson, but that's kind of an antiquated. mean, Bing is antiquated too. Bing Crosby, I forget, was singing in 100 years ago, 1930s. So Bing is antiquated, but not having a name is appropriate. What famous actor looks the most like Cooper? If his nose wasn't so big, it's Adrian Brody. If his nose wasn't that huge, you give Adrian Brody a normal little nose, Cooper, he's very Coopery. That's what I would say. Because Adrian Brody has a really narrow head, long, narrow, skinny head, which is what Cooper was described as having. Ben Gazzara, that's a Max Gunther reference there. Jeff Goldblum, John Hamm, they dropped the ball, man. Mad Men, they really dropped that ball, didn't they? They had the opportunity and they knew it. Okay. Matthew Weiner, the writer, right? He has stated that he was aware of Cooper and he was aware of the theories that Don Draper was going to end up being Cooper. And because, remember the opening of Mad Men, he's falling, right? And he's falling in his little suit, little skinny tie. They botched that. And I will go down swinging. They messed that up. I mean, I like the way it ended with Draper coming up with the Coke ad, right? Okay, great. But it seemed like it was moving toward Dan Cooper, right? Remember the last half of the Mad Men final season? Draper is he's driving sports cars really fast. He's doing auto racing. He's doing all these adrenaline junkie things, right? They could have had him do a skydive or something, right? And then he sees Cine or something and does, I don't know. They could have worked that into it. And the ending would have been Draper jumping off the stairs and into he's falling, right? I mean, that's what I think. I mean, the ending for Mad Men, really should have been Draper falling, right? I mean, that's what I think. I think it should have been Draper free falling out the back of the 727. He'd have been, that'd have been a lot of fun to have him doing that business. Whoa. And I will point out something that I really hadn't thought about. It's weird, the things you don't think about. Is that somebody on Reddit was commenting how Cooper was wet. Okay. He's falling through the air wet. No. The cloud cover was 5,000, then at 2,700, then at 1,000. So Cooper is not being rained on as he's free falling. He opens his canopy. He has a 24-foot umbrella. Okay. I don't think Cooper gets wet until he touches the ground, in my opinion. So I don't think Cooper was wet because he's 5,000 feet above. Has Bill Mitchell forgiven Cooper? I don't know. I asked him a while back, I said, would you want Cooper prosecuted? And he said, hell yeah. So I said, if they found a 95-year-old Cooper, would you want him prosecuted? And Bill said, yeah, of course. So, I mean, I didn't know the answer to that. Honestly, when I asked him, I didn't know the answer to it. So I could see him saying no and yes. Okay. Thank you for the super chat, Lost Alchemy. Ryan, please give us an update. Are you still trying to find that FBI witness identification book? Yes. 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 Bloody hell. Yes. Yes, I am still trying to find that stupid ass book. It is the most elusive thing. I check every day on eBay. I check websites every single day. And I am traumatized that I had been looking for it for years. And the 1 week that it's on eBay, that somebody sells one, was the week of CooperCon 2 years ago. I'm like, are you freaking serious? The 1 week I'm too busy to check. You know, just annoying. But yeah, I'm still trying to find this damn book here. Definitely still trying to find the KK51 book for sure. But it remains elusive. What is this FBI identification book? It's a book of faces. It's how they make composite sketches. You'll look through a book and it's got a bunch of mug shots of old criminals, and you say, okay, well, Cooper's nose was this nose. Cooper's eyebrows look like this. These eyebrows. That's all it is. Bill is one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, for sure. Bill is extremely nice. I have a quarter century rule. If no one died, then he's free to go after 25. He's free to go after 20. You mean like there should always be a statute of limitations on everything, I guess? Okay. We don't know who he was, where he came from, or where he went. I know, we don't. All right. We're still talking about that stuff. Somebody says, okay, my paranoid Flo video. Yeah, I know. Poor Flo. She thought her car was going to blow up like in Casino or something. She was checked under her bed, behind her showers, looking for Cooper. Poor Flo. Had to lighten the mood there with the Himmelsbach laughs. Can I create an AI Cooper Raleigh cigarette commercial? Now, that's funny. I should. These Raleighs really hit your T-zone. They're smooth, refreshing taste. 9 out of 10 doctors smoke Raleighs. That's always the good one. 9 out of 10 doctors or whatever. 9 out of 10 doctors snort fentanyl. It's like, what? And I agree. When people say it's a victimless crime, it was definitely not. Bill Mitchell's kids were not at CooperCon, Max. How long did Tina and Cooper spend alone? That would have been a long conversation, right? Maybe he told her the grudge. I mean, she was next to him for 4 hours. I mean, about 4.5 hours. But no, he just said he had a grudge. And I still don't know what that means. When did you first hear of Cooper and how long have you been into the case? Okay, so I almost certainly would have seen Cooper on In Search Of reruns, right? Or Unsolved Mysteries. I don't know which one. I mean, I'm sure I watched all that crap on the History Channel back in the 90s, right? They showed reruns of In Search Of and Unsolved Mysteries and things. So it would have been one of those. But then I really got back into it in 2007 or 8 when Larry came out and did his thing with the media, because I saw that when I was in law school at the time, and I really got into it then. And my first post, I went and checked. My first post on a DB Cooper forum was 2015. But I had been reading it a little bit before then. So I guess the first time I participated was 2015. Of course, they hate her sketch. I mean, but Drew, Flo's sketch is Bing. That's Flo's sketch. I mean, we've got Flo saying she likes Bing very much. Look, this sketch would not exist, right? If all 3 stewardesses didn't agree on it. mean, that's not how that works, right? I mean, Roy Rose is sitting there with the stewardesses drawing it as they're sitting right next to him, right? So, you know, when Flo's like, oh, the sketch didn't look like Cooper. Well, lady, you're the one who agreed with it. I mean, you know, again, that's the memory thing, right? When you say, oh, it didn't look like Cooper. Well, then why did you say 2 days after the hijacking, this is a good sketch? You know? So, was the family of Brian Ingram investigated by the FBI? Yeah. I thought maybe they found the money soon after the jump. They were not there. For one thing, Slim Ingram, the dad, was overseas in the military in 71. Number two, they lived in Arkansas and Oklahoma until 6 months before the money find. They didn't move there until 79. So how did Paul Sini get to the airport? How did Paul Sini get to the airport? A cab, I think. Yeah, she said the face does not look like him, but I mean, okay, she says that, but she didn't say that 2 days after the event, right? Thank you. Fazio Brothers at the Cooper Convention. You know what? I need to get up with that. Wasn't there another suspect who had flight maps in Arkansas? Yeah, that's Joseph Henry Johnston. That's suspect number one. You can check out my video about him. Was D.B. Cooper's accomplice drunk? Is the title of that one. Joseph Henry Johnston. If Cooper had an accomplice, it was that guy. I don't know if Cooper had an accomplice, but in a scenario where Cooper had an accomplice, it was probably Joseph Henry Johnston. That's too freaky a little bit. Little too freaky. Is this the one where funny? Look at you, DeBoss. I joined a little late. Is this the one where we figure out it's McCoy? I agree with this, Pat. I've known you a while, and I'd have a hard time describing you to a sketch artist. This is a lot harder than I think. Yeah, I mean, there's that quote from the most unhelpful witness of all time. One of Heinemann's stewardesses tells the FBI to describe him, and she goes, he was a man. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Thanks, babe. Captain, no help at all. But yeah, she says, when are we going to find a newsreel of McCoy's voice? Well, I paid money for that McCoy video that I put up the other day. I was hoping that was going to have him saying what he said, right? We know that McCoy, during his perp walk that we've all seen, right? He said, this is embarrassing. Let's face it. Why B if A was so good? Long story, man. Long story on B. I mean, the fact is that there's no reason. I need to come out with my, like, all this sort of stuff comes from my yet to be made, sketch video, right? I mean, all this sort of stuff here, right? All comes from that. I have a sketch video that I am making that is just not come out yet. And it's got a lot of good stuff in there. And it would really explain a lot, I think, if I could make it. But to me, the sketches are so, I am such a sketch freak, I guess. I am so into the sketches that I really want to tell that story correctly. And so I've been working on that. That will be a magnum opus video. I think whenever I'm able to release that But yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of sketch stuff. I mean, a lot of AI for that. Like here's Alice and her husband, Jim, being shown comp B. Or no, that's the first, that's not comp. That's when they took comp A with the eyes, because the one with the eyes was later on, and they took that to her house to go show her. That's why it's comp A with the eyes, because she was there when they drew the one with the sunglasses. But I've got Roy Rose. What's he drawing there? That's comp B. Yeah, Roy Rose working on comp B, and I've got Alice looking at comp B. Did you see the end of that? Did you see what Alice says that I included her saying? You can't hear it, but you can see it. Look at the words she says. Hoodlum, right? That's where we get hoodlum from, is Alice. And she goes, comp B looks like a hoodlum. He looks like a hoodlum. I love it. That's where we come up with that. Hoodlum. All right. It isn't very much like a Mormon to steal. Yeah, it's not. And his wife, yeah, McCoy's interesting. Yeah, it's weird that we're like, McCoy didn't smoke or drink, but he's going to steal. And he went gamble. He gambled too. Max, you got to come off this, man. You're saying McCoy was not a bad man. He was a war hero. Well, you know who else was a war hero? Ted Braden, and Ted Braden was a bad man. Okay, just because you're a war hero, Robert Rackstraw is a bad guy, a bad character. He's a murderer, and he was a war hero. Just because you're a war hero does not mean you're a good guy. Okay, the military is like anything else in the world. You got assholes in there, you got good people in there, you got losers in there, winners. Yeah, I think you idealize military people too much, Max. I mean, I'm not saying I come from a big military family. I'm just saying that, and maybe that's why I know that military people are not. Okay, what in the bloody world is this currency? Now, this is not American currency. What is this? I'm guessing that's Thailand money. I have no idea what that is. It might be $1, U.S. American. It might be $1 in negotiable American currency, but I do appreciate the super chat. Thank you for your continued hard work. I really appreciate you. Karen McCoy was definitely an accomplice. Matt, you don't know this. Rackstraw killed his stepfather. His stepfather was a bad guy, also abusive. How do you know? How do you know why you don't know why he killed his stepfather? Oh, where was Feeney stationed when he was in the military? For some reason, I know that he joined. I mean, Rackstraw got a Distinguished Flying Cross. It's pretty cool. I didn't miss it. I was thanking him profusely for that, Jim. That was Joe. Yeah. Okay. Join Jen says, I was active Navy and I served with psychopaths. I mean, it's just like anything else. $22 Thailand money. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. How old was Alice at the time? Alice was 24. Alice 24, Flo 23, Tina 22. Boom, boom, boom. Easy. Alice had only been married. I think it's interesting. Alice had only been married to Jim Hancock for a month at the time. So, like, it's interesting. Like, we know her, and we know her character through history as Alice Hancock, but we almost would know her. If we had not married a month earlier, we would know her as Alice Garley, right? So we'd say Alice Garley, Tina Mucklow. He lied. Who? No. You talking about Rackstraw? No, I mean, we've got that. That wasn't a lie. I mean, that actually was real. There's a, I think I have that clipping. Son of a bitch. Why do I never have anything I friggin' want? No, I've got Drew, I've got a news clipping of him being awarded his Distinguished Flying Cross. from the news, them pinning it on his chest. So he did get that. That was real. It is really hard to know where the truth and the fiction, or where the tiny bit of, it's hard to know where the tiny bit of truth begins with Rackstraw, because it's mostly fiction. But there is some truth in there, and yeah, he was all right. Who was the best match to the sketch? For me, it's Don Burnworth. I mean, I don't know how you could argue anything else, really. I mean, for me, it's Burnworth. How could, I mean, they're just so damn close. Right? I mean, remember, that's just, I mean, look, remember, the sketch is not, Cooper is not going to look like the sketch. He's just not. But he will have features that would make you think he's that guy. And that's as close as it gets, in my opinion, is Burnworth. So close, in fact, that he thought his wife, who was a daughter of a mob boss, he thought his wife hired a lookalike to do the hijacking in order to frame him for it. So pretty good. The nose is different. Yeah, I don't know. You have to see it. Okay, I mean, Drew, I mean, I it's not fake. I mean, I think I've got that. I may have that. I do have that. Yeah, here we go. Drew, you ask for things and you're gonna get it. You're just gonna get it from Ryan Burns. This is the thing. I'm not Grider. I don't just say things just to say them. By God, if I say something, I've got proof of it. I try. There we go. Distinguished Flying Cross, Rackstraw. There we go, Drew. All right. Rackstraw says it was a job to make low-level flights over known enemy positions, pinpointing and destroying those locations. His citation notes that Rackstraw's courage and devotion to duty under the most arduous conditions have provided the Army with invaluable intelligence. And then he became the personal pilot of a general of the 1st Cav Division. Says Rackstraw had been previously awarded some campaign medals and things. What's funny about Rackstraw is they not only was he not like to be an officer, he said he was a college graduate. Okay. Not only was he not a college graduate, he never even graduated high school. And so when they realized that's when they booted him from the Army. So Ryan should use all these super chats to fund a little friend for little Coop, maybe a little Tina. So there is actually, and I'll show you guys. They're so expensive. Let me see if I can find it. They're really expensive, and I really want one. There is a Northwest Orient doll, maybe. There is a little. They used to give out to girls on the planes, which is really, today you'd say we would say it's really sexist or something, right? But they would give to the girls on Northwest Airlines planes. I'm trying to find that. They would give them these little there we go. Here we go. That one's not too expensive. I may buy that one. How about that? That may be one that I actually purchase there. But they would give them these little, they would give the girls little stewardess dolls. Which is, again, in hindsight, in today's world, that would be like, oh, well, is that all she can be as a stewardess? But that was the times, right? Let me try to upload this for you people. But yeah, I've thought about getting one of these for a while, just to have one. I collect Northwest Airlines stuff, and I've thought about it. But yeah, they used to give these out to girls on Northwest Orient flights. These little dolls here, little stewardess dolls, or at least what they're supposed to be, a stewardess doll, which is cute. But yeah, Cooper does need a little friend. I probably should. I bet I could make, just like I made a Cooper doll. I bet I could make a Tina doll. I could probably do that. The cap is choice. It is not. Yeah, it's nice. All right. I like this cap. I don't like the seam down the middle. I don't like it about that. Drew is bidding right now. When was the last time your pilot on a flight was a woman? Not long ago, actually. On one of my, on a flight to England recently was a female pilot. Where was Burnworth living at the time? California. Well, Germany, actually, during the hijacking is what he said. But he had not kidnapped, but his wife was, he was going through a divorce with his wife. His wife was mobbed up, and he took his kids to Germany, and that's where he was at the time of the hijacking. New DB Cooper Con event added to schedule, doll making. Well, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Do I have any Cooper hot takes? Packer, I hate you. I bet I could make a Tina doll. I know. I bet I could. You won't see a 60-year-old man flying any plane you're on. They have to retire. I think when they get 60, actually. I could be wrong on that, but I think I'm right. Can I reserve a Flo doll? She was super cute. She's also super paranoid, apparently. She's very suspicious. I like Flo. I'd like to meet Flo. I'd like to meet any of them. I won't say too much. I have to ask your bishop how many female pilots he knows. Cooper hot takes. Same stuff I always say to you guys, I guess. I don't know you have a hot take, except that I don't think it's a hot take, but it makes a lot of sense to me for Cooper to be Canadian. I'll just say that. I mean, again, probability would say that he's 95% American, but the fact that he's even 5 or 10% possibly Canadian is way higher than it normally would be. The proximity to the Canadian border is interesting. There was no security on the border back then, essentially. I mean, they didn't check your cars or anything like that. So very easy to hop back over to Canada. The FBI and the Mounties did not get along. We can see that in the FBI files. We can read, when we read through the files, we can see the problems that they had with working with Canada. So there's that. I think it would be easy for Cooper to escape back up to Canada. I mean, hell, he's in a different country with different law enforcement, different everything within hours. Literally, if he jumps out in Portland, I mean, he can be back in Canada the next morning, right? Not crazy. And then the whole saying U.S. currency or American currency, he said one of those two. I mean, he did not, that's not, I don't think that's added by either of them. I mean, he said something like that. That's a weird thing to say. Politeness, Canadians. But I don't know. I think there's a higher probability than there should be that he would be Canadian. I mean, normally we wouldn't even think about it, but I think there's and that might be why we have trouble finding him. I mean, God almighty. Thank you, Aaron. Still not Rekka. Wow. Holy shit. Aaron, I appreciate that, man. You've been so helpful for me in the past. I'll have to send you a copy of my book. I am rolling it in tonight. Thank you so much, Aaron. By the way, thank you to Pat Boland. Okay, here's something new. I didn't even know this, and I had to add it. I hate to be that guy. It's like, I almost want to give y'all my Venmo or something like that. I don't be like Grider, but it's like, if y'all want to contribute to Super Chats, the problem is the friggin' YouTube takes so much of it, you know? Pat Boland, mentioned serial numbers in being published in newspapers, and for some reason, I felt I knew this information at some point, but I guess I had forgot it. And Pat reminded me, and I'm glad she did, because I had known this, but one newspaper did publish the serial numbers. So the FBI, the agents, they went to Hoover and they said, "Hey, can we publish the serial numbers in newspapers?" He said, "Well, how much is it going to cost us?" They asked the LA Times, asked, Seattle, whatever. And they all said, this is how much it's going to cost to buy that much space. Hoover said, "Hells to the no. We ain't doing that." But the Oregon Journal, which I believe is a defunct paper, did publish over a month-long period all 34 pages of the Cooper serial numbers. I went and looked it up today, and they did it. There's they serialized it. Like they released like 2 pages of the numbers every day in 1973. And it's funny. I saw some articles where they were commenting how, in fact, I'll just read it to you because I've got it right here. The article, because I had to. It's interesting. Where is it? Where did it go? So yeah, thanks to Pat Boland for that. Where in the hell did that article go? What? Here it is. Okay. Says here, banks in the Portland area are reporting an unusual interest in Twin R bills. They believe the demand for the bills is the result of the decision of the Journal to publish the numbers of all the Twin R bills included in the D.B. Cooper extortion. It says John Codal of the First National Bank said all the tellers of the bank's head office branch had been asked to change money into Twin R bills by persons hoping to cash in on the Journal's offer to pay $1,000 to the person bringing in the first Twin R bill from Cooper's Hall. Codal said fairly large sums of money were being exchanged between our bills. The largest sum was brought in by a man who laid $500 on the counter and asked for Twin R bills in return. One woman wrote the Journal from Orlando, Florida, saying that she had asked for her Social Security payments to be made in Twin R bills. So I thought that was kind of neat. So that's something I found out today that's new. You can still find new things on this case, of course. So that's what I found out that was new. All right. Anyways, do I think Cooper was alive during this? Yeah. I mean, I don't think he died that soon. I do think Cooper didn't live that much longer. Yes, actually, will Ron the River guy, he was in the Ron Ravancic, who was in earlier posting. He will be presenting again this year. He has some new stuff to discuss. So, yeah, he'll be back doing a new presentation on his hydrology stuff. How would Cooper know the money was authentic? Why not give fake money? Because he had a bomb, allegedly. I mean, that's why. They were concerned. I mean, listen to what Tina said. Tina says he made it very clear to me that we faced a very real and horrifying threat. So, I mean, why do I think Cooper didn't live that long after the hijacking? Because the longer you stay alive, the more likely it is you're going to tell somebody, or that somebody's going to find out something about you, right? So Marty Andrade is the first guy that brought that to my attention years ago. I remember he had this theory that he thought Cooper didn't live past the 70s, and possibly. I mean, the guy's already being he's a risk taker to begin with. He's a heavy smoker. He's older to begin. So I don't. Ron the River guy. That's sounds like a Larry the Cable Guy, right? Ron the River guy. They knew he could possibly give them the crew, so just give them the money. We will catch him tomorrow and get it all back. No need to put the crew at risk. Precisely 1,000,000% right. It's just money. It was insured. And again, hijacking at this point had a 0% success rate. Okay. There had been well over 100 hijackings in American airspace in the previous 5 years. All of them unsuccessful. So, no, Galumba. Did I see your post of a redacted Canadian criminal? No, let me go back and look. I didn't see that. Maybe you posted again. I mean, you might be referring to the Ottawa guy. I FOIA'd for his photograph. That might be who you're thinking of. Because I FOIA'd for the Ottawa criminal who's unnamed, who Tina said she got a weird feeling when she saw his photograph. She said it gave her the creeps. And I'm like, oh, well, I would like to FOIA for that photograph. I have not heard back yet on that. Did the FBI check with banks looking for people who made large cash deposits? Yeah, so it's called a flag transaction. So basically, yeah, I mean, any sort of suspicious transaction, it would have been flagged. And so, yeah. But remember, folks, the serial numbers were not to find Cooper. The serial numbers being recorded weren't so much to find Cooper, they were to prosecute him. The whole point of recording serial numbers is to, like, if a guy is caught who's a suspect, you go, okay, let's see your money. And if you got, I mean, you see what I'm saying? It's evidentiary. It's not, it's to prosecute him easier. It's a prosecutorial matter, not so much finding Cooper via the ransom money, right? So that's why the money was recorded. Okay. It's in case Cooper's found with the money. And so we know this is the money, which means this is the guy. You're not gonna be like, oh, this guy came in and it's just, I mean, long shot. I think John Detler was on stage at CooperCon a couple years ago, who was the second case agent ever. He was there that night of the hijacking. He was like, they never put any stock in the ransom numbers catching Cooper. That was just never there. They knew that was not going to happen. Yeah, Jay. Cooper, for a 50-year-old man, didn't use the restroom. That's weird. He did have a drink, and it was a long flight. He had one drink and spilled it. But he did go to the bathroom. When they landed, he went to the bathroom, and I think he peed. He was there for 2 minutes and came back out. I think he had to go to the bathroom. I don't think he was doing anything weird in the bathroom. I don't think he was putting transponder codes into a thingamajig. I think he just had to pee. Do you think Cooper hurt himself landing? How many copycats were hurt from the jump? Very likely he was hurt to some degree. And yeah, the majority of the copycats were hurt. Hetty dislocated his shoulder. LaPointe basically broke his ankle. Mac had a terrible concussion. I mean, Mac was so concussed that he crawled off in the woods nearby, wrapped himself up in his parachute, and went to sleep for like 12 hours. He woke up halfway through to the sound of a helicopter above him, looking through the woods with a spotlight, and they didn't see him. And the helicopter flew off. Went back to sleep. So I think it's highly likely that he was banged up. I don't know if he was injured that bad, but he was banged up, I'm sure. I mean, Cooper wasn't too far east of I-5. No, that's the thing about Cooper. Look, I mean, Cooper is landing probably 5 miles east of the interstate, of I-5 interstate. I mean, literally just walk east. And in fact, there is some idea. V23 basically follows I-5. Okay. From Seattle to Portland, it's basically right over I-5. And Cooper, I mean, it wasn't cloud cover. There was scattered clouds. I mean, they could see the ground. Okay. The pilots were said that they could see landmarks and things. So it wasn't like overcast completely. So, I mean, Cooper could have looked down, and yeah, from 10,000 feet, you can see an interstate. You can see some lights of cars very dimly. You know, it's only 2 miles away. You can see, yeah, one assumes Cooper could see I-5. Yeah, I assume that. I think Cooper could see I-5 for sure. What is the story about parachute being spotted near I-5 after the hijacking? That is the Jeffries parachute. That's they allegedly a white round military canopy was on the rocks underneath the I-5 railroad bridge, spotted by a Vietnam veteran who called the Vancouver PD. This is a week after the hijacking, and said, "Hey, I saw a parachute earlier today on the rocks. You might want to go check it out." He says that the police were like, "Can't be Cooper's parachute. That hijacker jumped out, 30 miles north of here, near Ariel." So they didn't even investigate it. And he said that when he went back, like the next day or so, it was gone. I mean, there's no reason to disbelieve that guy. But again, everybody's got a Cooper story who lives in that area, right? I mean, you got the woman who says that she saw Cooper throwing flares out the back of the plane as it was going over Vancouver. Okay. I don't know how you're going to see Cooper. How are you going to see? Imagine being able to see a man 2 miles away at night on the back of a unlit staircase 2 miles away. It's bollocks. It's just nonsense. From the U.S. Air Force, thank you for calling it that. Eric loved to call it the FBI flight path. From the U.S. flight path map, I get almost 12 miles from flight path to Tina Bar. It's the wrong direction too. I mean, look, this is what's so stupid. Like, look how far away Tina Bar is from that place. Okay, it's miles and miles and miles and miles away. And it's nowhere near where the plane ever was, really. Cooper's long gone by the time they got anywhere near Tina Bar. I don't think, let me see. I can try to figure that out. The plane, I don't think got within 5 miles of Tina Bar. So even at its closest point, which is well after he jumps out, Tina Bar is just too far away. And that's my problem with Eric. That's kind of like my issue with Eric is, you heard Eric. You heard Eric talk about how everything has to square with Tina Bar for him, right? Everything, he will upend the Air Force map, which was the most highly technological radar system in the world at the time. Okay. Recording it in real time on a frigging hard drive. I mean, we have data. I mean, there's no reason to think that thing's wrong, but he will discount that because Tina Bar. It's like, well, bro, like, we don't know how the money got there. So how about you work within the facts? That's what I would say. I would say that we've got facts. I mean, look, we don't have a lot of facts in this case. The flight path is a fact, people. Okay. I mean, okay, it might be a mile off. Who knows? Maybe it's a mile off either way. Maybe they're 3 miles. Maybe the minutes are off by a little bit, but like, it's not enough to like say the flight path's wrong. Okay. It's not a coincidence that, not a coincidence that, that this chart here, that little squiggles follows V23. If you lay V23 over that, it pretty much matches it. Okay. Again, planes don't fly willy-nilly. There is no flight path that goes over Tina Bar. Okay. People don't realize that. I guess that's like one thing that people don't really realize about aircraft is like they follow roads in the sky. Just like we're driving down the interstate, right? There was no reason for them to go off-roading. You know, they didn't go off-road 10 miles the other direction. They're following their road. And you look at the flight path map, all these timestamps, they match exactly the speed of a lumbering 727 following Victor 23. It is not a coincidence. And like I said, you know, Eric talking about maybe this is them tracking the fighter jets. Like, what? No, come on, Eric. Like I said, they wouldn't be tracking the fighter jets anyways. They were friendlies. They had no reason to do that. That's true. Augie says, paradoxically, he's using the two pieces of evidence to create a completely different crime and suspect. Yeah, you're right. It is a paradox. Just like his whole thing about the this air traffic controller guy making Eric go search in Pigeon Springs. Well, that's nowhere near Tina Bar. What do you pick one? What are you doing? What's the youngest you're willing to put on a Cooper suspect? Man, 40. Because look, age is not just your appearance. It's your bearing. It's your countenance. Okay, listen, this is the way I look at it. Okay. Tina and Flo thought Cooper was in his mid-40s, okay? I looked it up. Tina and Flo's fathers, their ages, I looked their dads up. Both of their dads were like 47 or something at the time, okay? So like, this is their dad. It's their dad's age. I think they know the difference in somebody who's their dad's age, right? Than closer to their age. A 30-year-old Cooper is closer to their age than, you know, their dads. And so, I mean, again, age is more than just your appearance. It's the way you talk, how you interact with people. They interacted with a guy who they thought his age was equivalent to their father's age. That's not a 30-year-old. And I see what I'm saying, there's more to it than just, so I mean, maybe he could have been younger, but I think that they were, you know, and it's why I think Cooper's taller than people than 5'7" or whatever. I know I get killed by my boy Drew Beeson about that, but I mean, and Flyjack will throw a fit. But I mean, look, men are good at sizing up other men. That is a biological, evolutionary thing, right? And yes, male passengers put Cooper at 5'9", 5'10". But they're seeing the guy sit down. You cannot tell someone's height unless they're Andre the Giant or a dwarf by them sitting. Your torsos are longer. You know what I'm saying? You cannot tell. Like, example, Nicole and Brad Legg, two of my favorite people in the world. Nicole and Brad, okay? Brad is taller than Nicole. But when they sit down across from you on a table, Nicole is taller than Brad when they're sitting because her torso is longer than his. It's like, so I go with the men who saw Cooper standing, and the only man who seemingly paid attention to DB Cooper was Hal Williams. Okay. Dennis Lisney saw him a little bit, but Hal came face to face with Cooper when they handed the ticket. Hal Williams said 6'1" plus. Okay. Like, that is so far from 5'8" that it's absurd in my opinion. You know, like, so the one man who was really paying attention to Cooper, he says, if he's to be believed, no, it didn't deter the FBI. Of course not. Well, it depends on the agent. Ron Nichols, you're under 5'10". Ron Nichols will eliminate your ass so fast. You see eliminate RNN, too short for Ron Nichols. He didn't, and he was the case agent for 20 years. But no, I mean, it didn't. I mean, again, they're not going to, no, Eric, Drew says when he first saw me, I was damn tall. I am tall, but no, Eric is the one that surprises you. Eric is 6'5". Okay. So when you see Eric Ewers, you're like, holy shit, that guy's enormous. How tall was the ticket agent? Now that is something I have tried to find. I have really tried to find Hal Williams' height. I cannot. He looks average. There's a couple photographs of him. Max, we're about the same height, Max. We're plenty tall. But like, I'm 6'1". Nikki is 5'7" or so. Like, no one would ever confuse me for being Nikki's height. You know, or vice versa, right? So that's my thing. I mean, again, but as far as the age goes, they thought he was their dad's generation, right? It's generational, right? I mean, think about you. Would you find it hard to distinguish somebody who's 10 years older than you or somebody who was your parents' age right now, if their parents are alive, you know, whatever, you know, I mean, like, no. Yeah. Mr. Tino, a pioneer named Tina Barr, no connection to Tina Muckler. Correct. What's his name? Tell Tina. His name, Telltena. Tell Tina. Yeah, he sold his land there to the Fazios, the original Fazio bros. There were two brothers who came from Italy. And then they had a bunch of kids, a bunch of boys. Those are the Fazios. Did the FBI show all the suspect pictures to Hal Williams as much as they did the Stews and Bill? The Stews certainly saw the most photographs. But I mean, Hal and Bill saw enough too. I mean, they come up enough. Okay. What's up with the rental property by Tina Barr? That's the safe house in Kalama, which is, I need to do a video about that, don't I? That's interesting, right? So the story there is a guy contacts the FBI about a week after the hijacking. No, days after the hijacking. He says, Kamala Harris, I don't know. Kalama is up there on the top left. You can kind of see Kalama. So a guy, kind of a slumlord kind of guy who has a bunch of rental properties, contacts the FBI a day or two after the hijacking and says, you know what? I had a weird thing happen to me that last month. Some people came in and they rented a property of mine. They paid up front for the month of November. They didn't move shit in. Okay. They didn't move furniture in. Didn't move anything like that. It was a man and a woman. He said the man and the woman looked Latin-ish. He said the man was about 6'1". And he said that yesterday or whatever, they moved out and I saw them, they had a couple of boxes and they moved out. Very weird that they would not move anything in. I never saw them moving anything into the house. So the FBI look into this and they figure out that the guy who paid this check or whatever was a guy named Ben Leipson. Okay. He was a former dealer in Vegas. Okay. Why would Ben Leipson, a Vegas card dealer, be in Oregon or Kalama, Washington for a month, right? And this is where it gets weird. I looked up Ben Leipson's height. Ben Leipson was like 5'7" or 5'8". Okay. Leonard Leggett, the slumlord, who said this guy was 6'1", I looked up his draft card. He was 6 feet tall back in World War II or whatever. Okay. I am not mistaking anybody who is taller than who I'm estimating to be tall. I would never estimate someone to be taller than me who's actually 5'8". It's insane. So, right. Ben Leipson had an alibi. I was here. I mean, they eliminated Ben Leipson for being Cooper. But it doesn't seem like anybody caught on to the fact that Leggett said this renter who looked Latin was way off the height for the guy who paid, right? Yeah, right. So the guy, so it's a really creepy kind of thing. And all they found in the house was like a receipt from a hardware store. Yeah, Drew, you were shorter than I thought you'd be. I'll say that. So if you thought I was taller than I thought I'd be, I thought you were shorter than I thought you'd be. But yeah, the Kalama safe house is interesting because that does not add up. That's very strange. All they found was a receipt to a Seattle hardware store. I think Pat. Maybe even to her credit, Tweety and Pop. There you go. I think Pat even called those people, which is like, oh, bless your heart, Pat. There's no way they're gonna have a receipt from that long ago. But it would have been interesting if we could have found that. But Pat didn't you talk to Legit's son, Pat, the slumlord's son? Drew is a man of high standing in my book, Packer. Damn it, Packer. If Ben had been caught jumping and landing, the headline would have been leaps and bounds. Yeah, so Pat talks to people. Pat should be talking to somebody kind of important soon, if we can get that number. Isn't there an FAA beacon in Kalama? There sure is. And it was off, though. Remember, they said that the beacon in Kalama was turned off at the time of the hijacking. I don't know if that may have been a thing that was completely unrelated, of course. Was the receipt for dynamite. Funny, but yeah, you could buy dynamite at a hardware store. There's an article I found. Legit was a suspect too. That's right. Legit was a suspect himself. Turns out somebody turned the slumlord in. There was a lot of finger pointing, lots of finger pointing in that time. That's why I just don't believe Cooper's from that area. Right? Question, Kid Freshie. Hello, kid. Why did Tina tell Cooper that the crew needed meals? Tina didn't tell Cooper that when the galley was full of food to dissuade him from going. No. Tina did not say they needed meals. That was Cooper. So the exchange went like this. Ryan, your wife is very pretty. Congratulations. How tall is she? 5'8". She got long legs. 5'8". Okay, Kid Freshie. Okay, so here's how that happened. So Tina is just telling them, look, we've been doing this for a while. We've been flying. We're tired. We weren't expecting to be in the air this long. And that's when Cooper pops out his pills, his Adderall. And he goes, hey, I got something if they're getting sleepy up there. And Tina goes, they wouldn't take that. Trust me, they're not going to take your pills. And Cooper's like, all right, well, suit yourself. Puts his pills back. And then he thinks about it. She says that he's quiet for a while. And he's like, hey, get them some meals when we get there. But yes, that is something I learned in some research. Is that there were meals because they were supposed to fly to Miami. So the next day, these poor people, instead of waking up in Reno, they're supposed to wake up in Seattle and fly to Miami. So they were supposed to go to Miami, it wasn't a nonstop flight, but they were going to go from Seattle down to Miami. And so Tina and them were looking forward to going to the beach and stuff. Cause it's November, but you can go to the beach in November in Miami, of course. So they had the swimsuits and everything. They were ready to go. But the galley was full of meals because it was going to be a long flight. And so, that's why the crew meals that were brought on board by the same as Benzedrine. Yeah. I mean, Adderall is the exact same thing. It's amphetamine. But that's why the crew meals were put on the first class seat. So Tina put the meals on the seats, the first seat, like seat 1A and 1B. Tina laid the crew meals out because the galley was full and she couldn't put them in the refrigerators or whatever, right? But of course, remember the dog Rommel. I have a picture of Rommel. Rommel, which incidentally, I've always loved this. Rommel, so the drug dog, the bomb sniffing dog, was there he is. There's Rommel. He's a good boy. Rommel was a good boy. There's Rommel. I had a German Shepherd named Rommel when I was growing up. So yeah, I like that his name was Rommel, the good German, right? Rommel being the good German who Hitler made kill himself. Remember, Rommel had to commit suicide because Rommel was involved in the Valkyrie plot to kill Hitler. So that was their best general, and he was anti-Nazi kind of. And anyway, so yeah, Rommel. But yeah, Rommel went on board, and Rommel helped himself to the steaks, to the crew meals. So Rommel ate well that night because he had the crew meals. Steaks, Salisbury steaks. The Desert Fox, that's right. Perry Mason season 1. I was informed of a Cooper episode of a show. And Mrs. Sleuth is who turned me on to it. And she's at the house, so I can't ask her. But there was a Cooper-related show. What was that? Damn it. There was a show about Cooper. It's like a TV drama show from the early 2000s, had an episode about DB Cooper. I forget what it was. Damn it. But it was like a Law and Order type show sort of thing, but they don't go back in time, I don't think. Maybe they do go back in time. I don't know. Anyways, thank you for the not Prison Break. Nope. Not Quincy. Not Quincy. No. I forget. Anyways, thank you for the super chat. Do you find it odd that the Stews joked with Cooper about the money and then asked him for some? No, not odd. I mean, that she was just trying to be gallows humor, right? I mean, go watch body cam footage on YouTube of watch body cam footage of YouTube. Max, what are you apologizing for? You apologize too much, man. I don't know what you're apologizing for. Not Quantum Leap. No, God almighty. This was in like 2005, something like that. I forgot what I was saying, people. Oh, yeah. Tina joking with Cooper. Not odd. I mean, go watch body cam footage of cops and, doing things. I mean, gallows humor is a thing. I mean, I think Tina was just trying to be I mean, she said that in the FBI files. She says, I was just trying to bring some levity to it. She goes, hey, there's a lot of money in that bag. Can I have some? He goes, sure, here you go. Probably handed her a packet of $2,000, which is like $15,000 today. Not bad. Handed it back. Not Northern Exposure. Rommel, Cotty, cool. Rommel was my son-in-law's great uncle, brother to his grandfather. The family here is still in touch with that branch in Germany. The Desert Fox. So as far as the Perry Mason episode, I tried to find that episode. I did. I tried to sync up. I looked in the papers. Do I see Les Claypool on Rick Beato? No, I didn't. I need to check that out. I love Rick Beato. Now there's a Quantum Leap episode where Sam jumps into Cooper and doesn't know what to do. Would have been that would have been a damn, oh my God, that would have been a damn good Quantum Leap episode. Like he morphs into, Sam like morphs into like being on an airplane. He's like, what am I doing? What am I doing? Oh, I'm DB Cooper. Oh my God, I'm DB Cooper. That'd have been a cool one. And yeah, the Stews were just trying to keep the situation cool. They were. Not MacGyver. There's a lot of MacGyver references in Cooper, though. Rick Beato is the best, yeah. I I think Tina took some cash, and that is why she wasn't afraid to go back for her. Oh, no, I don't think Tina took it. That's silly. Cooper did have access to her purse, though. I'll say that. Cooper saw when Flo went back to get her purse. Cooper would have been looking at her to make sure she wasn't up to no good, right? And Cooper would have seen that the stewardess just kept their purse in that little compartment down there. Max, quit apologizing, man. I don't know. Just stop. I have no idea. You didn't offend me. Yeah, it was, I get what he's saying, Pat. I think he's saying that, or she is saying that Tina didn't go back there to get her purse during the time, when she was in the cockpit or whatever. He said, I don't think that Tina was thinking about that sort of stuff. Do I think the FBI officially closed the case, or are they working on it behind the scenes? They did not close the case. There is a case agent. I have communicated with him. There is a case agent assigned to Cooper right now. Yes, they did not close the case. There is a guy assigned to the case, and the only thing they will do with you, the only thing, they will give you the time of day. They will not tuck your call on Cooper. They will hang up on you unless body, parachute, money. That's it. That's it. Body, parachute, money. If you say you have a parachute, they'll check it out. Dan Grider, right? And then they'll give it back if it's not the right one, right? Body, if you find a body in the woods, they'll come look at it maybe. And some of the money, they'll talk to you if you have the money. Have I tried talking Flyjack into attending CooperCon? Of course. Of course. He's scared. I think he's scared. I don't know what he's scared of. Like, everyone gets along at CooperCon, even people who are bitter enemies. Everyone gets along at CooperCon. Everybody's friends. We're all just dorks. I would love for Flyjack to come. Flyjack has never been on the Vortex podcast. I've asked him to come on my show many times. What's the new Mini Coupe accessory you have? That's a 7-Up bottle. That's a vintage 7-Up mixer bottle. Show Leverage. I think that might be the show, actually. I think that's the show. Let me see. Leverage TV show. That's it. Yeah. Leverage. Thank you. You get the gold star for the show. Thank you. Leverage. That's it. Leverage. Where'd that go? There you go. You get a gold star there. Thank you. Thank you, JPN. Leverage. Whoa, inside joke there. Flyjack not going public makes my forehead wrinkle. Very good. Very good. What would conclusively prove Cooper's identity to you? I mean, if we found the hair slide and it matched to some middle-aged crook paratrooper guy, then sure. I think if somebody found a lot of the money in their grandpa's attic and grandpa happened to, I don't know, be a paratrooper who looked like this or something, that would go a long way. Is it still possible to find a body? No. So rest in peace to poor James Annis. So a 16-year-old hunter went missing in the drop zone area the same month as Cooper. Earlier that month, he went missing out hunting. During the searches and things, or not, it wasn't part of the searches, but they found a year later, so a year exactly, 1 year later, they found like a leg bone and his rifle and his skull. Everything else was gone. Just in 1 year in the woods up in that area. Body was torn asunder, no clothes, nothing. Just a skull and like a femur bone and his rifle. That's it. So no, the idea of somebody ever finding an intact skeleton with a parachute is not going to happen. Not even remotely going to happen. Nope. Yeah, I know the prison break, DB Cooper. Who is Flyjack? Flyjack is a Canadian researcher with a unique personality. He doesn't play well with others at all. A smart guy, very stubborn. But he's smart, but he's very stubborn and does not like admitting when he's wrong. If he was still in the harness would still be intact, but somebody would have found him. I mean, look, come on. There were, the county where Clark County, Washington had a population of 120,000 people at the time. It's got a population of 500,000 people now. Okay. This is not in the middle of nowhere. I'm not going to say it, Augie. I'm not saying anything. Mark, you're a man of my heart, man after my heart there. You know, he says, Mark says it wouldn't matter if we knew the exact spot Cooper landed. It doesn't prove who he is. Yeah. Same with Tina Barr. That's why I don't get too bogged down into the drop zone. That's why I don't really care about Tina Barr, because it doesn't help us. It doesn't advance finding Cooper. That's what I would say. Let's see. Who is Flyjack? The FBI should be willing to speak with you and other Cooper researchers to pick your brains. How do you know they're not? I may have had a hand in the Grider shoot being returned. Just saying. Is Flyjack still stuck on his suspect with the crazy wife? No. Flyjack is still stuck on his suspect, but he had a blind wife. Heineman's wife was blind, and bless her heart, she has the best line ever for Cooper stuff. After his hijacking, poor blind Mary Heineman was like, if she told the feds, she goes, if you ever find out why he did this, please tell me. She's like, I have no idea. If someone found Cooper's parachute, what good would that do? I mean, depends on where it's found, right? If it's found in an attic. What was the most holy shit moment when researching Cooper? I'll say the most demoralized I ever was befriending Martin McNally. Just like I said, realizing that if Cooper was a Martin McNally, we'll never find him. I think ever. Basically. So that was really scary for me. I was like, that was an existential crisis. I was like, what am I doing? Because like you would never come across, I mean, like Robert Wilson, I don't know. Like I said, if you don't know if you guys do not know the Mac story, I'm sure most of you do, but if you don't, go rent for $5 American Skyjacker, the movie that came out last year about McNally's copycat hijacking. Insane, just bonkers to the walls, insane hijacking, insane post hijacking, insane prison breaks, prison escapes, multiple. Mac is a 4-time convicted hijacker. 4 times hijacker. Now, 2 of his hijackings were over. 2 of his convictions were overturned because of Mac himself. Mac is a genius. Despite being a unique person, Mac is very smart. And Mac wrote his own legal briefs. Mac wrote his own appeals, like 300-page appeal, bound it in shoestring. In the I guess the Supreme Court of Illinois, I guess, or no, it was whatever federal court of appeals is Illinois, reversed his convictions. Jailhouse lawyer, F. Lee Bailey said Martin McNally is the best jailhouse lawyer of all time. And I think he was. And yeah, Mac was a bona fide criminal. I mean, look, that was the first thing I asked Mac. When I interviewed Mac on stage at CooperCon a couple years ago, I said, just to throw this out there, Mac, when you did this, you were already a felon. He goes, yes, I was. So why didn't Mac turn out differently? He had talent. So Mac is one of 9 kids. All 8 of his other siblings have postgraduate degrees. Doctors, as a lawyer, I think. I mean, like pharmacists. I mean, all of them. His family was very respectable. But Mac was always the black sheep. And Mac's different. Mac has no fear. And I believe him. Like, and I've actually researched this, if this is possible. And it is. Mac does not know what fear is. Mac says he's never been afraid of anything in his life. He's like, I do not know what that feels like. And I don't doubt him. I mean, remember, this is the guy who jumped out of a plane at 330 miles an hour, having never put on a parachute. That's somebody who has no fear. He doesn't know what it's like. His sister told me that. She goes, when he was little, he would climb the roof and like jump off, or like, he was not afraid of anything ever. Heights, just his brain didn't function like that. Any update on the hair slide? No, they can't. They killed the FOIA. Who lived a cooler life, Abagnale or Martin McNally? I mean, I don't know if there's anything cool about spending 38 years in federal prison. I'll say that. Abagnale was full of shit, though. Yeah, there you go. Joe says it right. Yeah, Abagnale is exposed as being a liar, a good liar, though. But hey, that's kind of like it's almost meta, isn't it? That like, yeah, he's such a good con man that he conned all of us into thinking he was the greatest con man ever. But maybe he was the greatest con man ever because he gets like, where'd I get the hat? I had it made. There's a lot of websites you can go on and just put anything on a hat. God, please have mercy on McNally. I hope God. Mac's mad at me, by the way, people. Mac doesn't like me. Mac will get over it, but Mac's mad at me right now. Billy Wall was a real class act. Yeah. Billy Wall was one of our great soldiers for sure. Let's see. If someone found Cooper's money in the attic of a rental house, that probably wouldn't reveal his identity. I know. I mean, I don't know what would reveal Cooper's identity. I am excited. I really need to get that suspect out there. We're gonna have a good suspect at CooperCon. We're gonna have shit. We might have 3 suspects at CooperCon introduced have their own segments. I think we're looking at 3 right now. So it might be a suspect palooza. And I'll say this, I am, that might be one of the things I'm most proud about is, raising the bar on suspects, right? Like when you get guys like the guy at CooperCon or someone like Braden or Skip Hall, and then you compare them to just doofuses like Dwayne Weber or Gossett or whatever. Like they're not Kenny Christensen. These aren't real suspects, people. You know what I'm saying? Like it's fun and all to go, oh, Kenny Christensen, but there's no way these guys were Cooper. Surely we all know this. Or am I wrong? You can just feel it, right? There's just no way. Like it's just not realistic. It's not probable. Or it's just not. I mean, maybe I'm just because I do criminal law for a living and that I'm around criminals a lot. I don't know, but like, there's just something that's completely unrealistic about Gossett being Cooper or Kenny Christensen being Cooper or Dwayne Weber. It just, it just, I don't know. So I'm glad that there's a better class of suspects coming along out there. And I think we've really done a lot. Can you get my autograph? You talking to me, Drew? You want my autograph? Yeah, I wish I had. Was McNally the Redditor that said I was a fraud? No, that's a Grider troll, I'm sure. That whoever that is, I don't know, but they're a jerk. They just throwing everything at the sun under me. They're basically saying I'm a murderer and everything. What are they talking about? Like, it might be Grider himself. I don't know. Somebody's not happy with me. Did Cooper need the money for parking tickets? Well, how common were Cooper's sunglasses at the time? Not really. Not at all. In fact, so the majority of sunglasses in that era were either the aviators, right? Or they were the bluesman types, right? Like the Blues Brothers. Those were the main sunglasses at the time. So wraparound sunglasses are pretty common now, right? I mean, when I was growing up in the 90s or whatever, Oakley's, are basically the same thing. Who is the most plausible suspect? It's McCoy, right? No. It's so hard to say it's really difficult to know when someone's being sarcastic about McCoy, because I get so many McCoy true believers in my comments, and I'm like, have you ever spent a second? Cooper's glasses were probably, not back there. I've got them. I mean, they're Bolaramas, Ray-Ban Bolaramas probably. My guess would be something like that. What did the pilots do in Reno? Okay, so they were transported to the Mapes Hotel in downtown Reno. And the next day was the game of the century, they call it. It was like Oklahoma and Michigan or something like this, right? There's a lot of games of the century. But yeah, they were going to chill out. And because they're on the West Coast, right, this game's happening on the East Coast or whatever. So they were going to sit and watch the game. They all got like 6 packs of beer. And they were going to sit in one of their hotel rooms and just watch the football game and relax. And they get a call. Hey, fly the plane back to Seattle. Why? It's full of the passengers' luggage. Oh, shit. Right. So, yeah, all the passengers' luggage was still on there. So, yeah, they had to fly the plane back. And they flew the plane back. And they unloaded the luggage. And Northwest were nice enough to hand deliver the luggage, to put it in a car and drove it to whoever needed it. Let's see. Then the crew flew as passengers. They picked up Flo and Alice and probably Jim Hancock, because he was there, and flew them back to Minneapolis. But the plane was in service that Friday. Okay. Isn't that crazy? So they fly, Cooper is on the 24th. They fly the plane back on the 25th. On the 26th, they already have passengers in there. They fixed the skirting on because you see the skirting on the plane, was tore up, right? They fixed that, and that was all they needed to fix. All of that was only damage. And they fixed it. And it was back in service the next day. So, yeah. Somebody was sitting in D.B. Cooper's seat within 48 hours of the hijacking. Don Nyrop counted every nickel. for sure. What happened to the beers? They gave it to the staff. Radachek says they gave it to the hotel staff. Where do I recommend eating breakfast at the convention? Hotel, I guess. I don't know. Ignore the McCoy trolls. I know. His suit and tie were out of fashion, right? I don't know if his suit was out of fashion. His tie was out of fashion. But it's, I don't know. I mean, hard to say on his suit. But anywho. Yeah. You should interview the person who sat in Cooper's seat. I wouldn't know who. I would have no idea of knowing that. Is a suit really ever out of fashion? I mean, I can think of some suits from the 70s. I think some leisure suits that are out of fashion, right? But no, a clip-on tie is always out of fashion. Yeah, for sure. The Goodwill tie. Mystery Bag loves to say the Goodwill tie. And yeah, I don't know. It was an old tie. I'll say that. I mean, it was definitely Cooper's tie. He was wearing it. But how long he owned it, who knows? You know, can't be certain. Anyways. Okay. Well, my voice is shot, folks. I got to end this thing. I'm dead. So, all right. Well, folks, please give this a like and hype or whatever. And anyways, that's all I've got. So I'm going to go. My voice is dead. I will see you guys again next month, and we can have more discussion about this. So adios, amigos. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night and good luck. I'm not a crook.